There it is. This is the first chapter. Yes. First chapter of the third book. And I will try in a moment to remember what, Ooh. Okay, what happened? Okay. Let's see if I can recap this. All right. So our hero Flynn Flytaggart, the novel starts by him displaying his heroism. His commanding officer wants him to shoot a bunch of innocent people, and he's like, no. So he gets court-martialed, and it turns out they were innocent, and his sergeant was a bastard. And then, for some reason, despite, I guess, being court-martialed, he's handcuffed on a transport to Mars with another unit. In that unit is someone named Arlene, a special friend, only friend. That's it, just friend. And he's totally cool with that. So they get to Mars. Doom Guy is captive, but then something happens. There's an outbreak. Radios are cackling with the screams of people, explosions, gunfire. Doom Guy's like, man, fuck this. I gotta go save Arlene. So he decks his captors, takes their guns, locks them in a room with a bunch of demons. They're dead. They're big time dead, by the way, at this point in the story. And then he starts traipsing off across the Mars base. There's a lot of running through hallways, a lot of Doom Guy brutalizing himself. He's taking ridiculous amounts of damage. He found a mega health at one point, like an orb that just splashed all over him. There's literal descriptions of video game stuff, which is pretty fun. He shoots through a lot of things, has a lot of weird, flights of fantasy, has a lot of weird memories. He's very Catholic for some reason. He says Jesus, Mother, and Mary a lot. He shit-talked some old nuns in his head while he was shooting demons. He finds Arlene. She got chased by a Baron of Hell, I think. And even though for most of the first book, for 2/3 of the first book, he's like, I gotta find Arlene. She's all I need in this world. She's my best friend. The second he finds her, he just starts just talking shit to her, negging her. And she's cool with it. Because she's so cool. She's super rad. The depth of their relationship, as described by Fly, is one time they watched a movie and shared popcorn together. And apparently this made him fall in love instantly. He insists he's not in love, even though he keeps thinking problematic things about her and saying problematic things to her. She's also barely a character. Someone in chat basically said she's Vasquez from Aliens, which is mostly true. I think she doesn't quite have the male aggression, the gender normative male aggression of Vasquez, but pretty much she's the cool girl vision of a stupid dude. Because she's a Marine and she shoots people, but she's also a lady. Okay, so they blow up all the demons on Mars. Arlene and Fly together. And everything seems fine, except... No, wait. At some point they go through a teleporter. They end up on Phobos. Or I think they started on Phobos and went to Mars, or started on Mars and went to Phobos. Either way, the celestial body that they're on gets teleported over Earth, like a moon. So they can look up and see Earth, except the dome that they're in is cracked. So what do? They're like, well, we got to get to Earth. Let's build a rocket ship. So they go around the Mars base and get a bunch of junk and just start throwing it in a pile and taping it together. Somehow Fly and Arlene build a rocket. Yes, they do. There's a couple of misadventures in the meantime, but they do all this while their oxygen is depleting, which is pretty cool because they talk about passing out and having hallucinations and stuff. That's actually a pretty cool set piece for a horror story, I have to admit. Being on a space colony with the air slowly running out over the course of months while you try to build your escape craft. And there was a portion in there where Arlene was like, I'm going to die if we don't leave. And Fly was like, suck it up. So he was really considerate there. So they get in the rocket. It works for some reason. They fly to Earth. They crash in Utah near Salt Lake City. And this is where it starts getting weirdly Mormon. So they crash. They're walking around. They roll up on they roll up to the nearest town. They find this group of people. They immediately get jumped, and taken to a Mormon militaristic commune that has declared independence from the United States, which the Mormons say are working with the demons. And you meet the Mormon president. We meet Bill? No. Albert. There we go. Albert. A very Mormon, very gentlemanly, and we've seen shades of misogyny, like that good old folksy 90s misogyny out of Albert, where it's like, no, it's good old fashioned values. No, it's actually misogyny. Anyway, it's Albert is a real gentlemanly fella. But Arlene doesn't like him because Arlene told a story about her brother that was an actor and got caught up with the drug scene in LA, and something I can't remember how that ties into her dislike of the Mormons. I think the Mormons said something mean to her brother and he committed, I don't know, she was really vague about it. There's been allusions that there's something even more fucked up with that relationship. I don't think that was revealed in the second book, and maybe we'll see it in the third one. So that's a little mysterious. Looking forward to resolution there. But she really hates Mormons. But Albert is handsome and has a southern drawl with the way that I read his dialogue. And Arlene has, let's be honest, Albert is way more functional of a human being than Fly. So of course she's getting juicy. So Arlene's got the hots for Albert. Albert has had impure thoughts. He's getting boner thoughts, and he's being tormented by it. Oh, poor Albert. That's what we know about Albert. So they kind of meet up. They go to the Mormon capital. I don't remember exactly when Albert enters the scene, but anyway, he's there. I think, he's one of the first people that find them. They go to the Mormon capital. Fly, still loyal to the United States military because he is a Marine, sneaks off, finds a radio, and tries to talk to his CO. The CO's like, "Where are you?" And he tells them. And then all of a sudden a demon army is marching on the Mormon capital because Fly ratted everybody out. So then Fly and Arlene and Albert have to fight a demon horde defending Mormonism from the demons and the US military. It's demons plus military tanks and shit. So they're fighting. Fly feels real bad about that. I think. He expresses it in an odd way, but I think he does feel bad because he gets a lot of people killed. So the Mormon president is like, "Okay, you bastards, here's what you got to do to make good. You have to sneak out. You have to get through the demon blockade surrounding the Mormon camp and go to California to take down an energy shield that the demons have put up that prevents us from accessing a something in Hawaii that we need to fight the demons." I think there's a computer in Hawaii that they can use to upload a virus, which is weird because this book came out before Independence Day. Okay, so there's some misadventures. They go through a cave. They get on a truck. They're driving. Oh yeah, and also this is when we get Jill. Jill becomes the fourth member of this married band. She's a 14-year-old computer hacker who has no personality. The book, the author clearly didn't have a character defined in their head, I think, when they wrote Jill into the story, because all she does is just say the most basic stuff. And they basically have no, there's no internal monologue for Jill yet. No, wait, there was one chapter for Jill, except they wrote her she was more 8, like a child, not necessarily an adolescent teen. And because this book has just the most problematic overtones, not only does Fly make some weird observations about Jill, about how she'll be a woman someday or something, but also Jill, in a moment of duress when she's trying to, they're on a train, I think. That's right. Oh, that's right. There's a cyber mummy. Holy fuck. All right. So they're on a train. Doom guy sees them load up a cyber mummy and he's like, "We got to steal that." Because it's it must be important if they want it. So cyber mummy. Oh yeah. Ad time. All right. Hold on. I'll take a break. I'll take a break and drink some water. Wait for these ads to shake out. Can't believe I forgot about the cyber mummy. I also forgot to start recording, so I'm gonna have to download this VOD and stitch it up. Can't have half the prologue missing. I don't think the Cyber Mummy was ever... No, wait, it was. Yeah, okay. It's all coming back now. Yeah, recover from all the lore recaps. So much time was wasted on that Cyber Mummy. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the Cyber Mummy led to. I think it gave them coordinates? I think. So... Alright, the ads are almost out. Stupid ads. So yeah, Doom Guy... that's right. They're hiding on a train to get out of Utah, and it's a demon train, and they have to rub themselves down with rotting lemons because apparently zombies can't smell you if you're rubbed down with rotting lemons. Those are just, hey, I don't make the rules. I just read the book. So they're on this train, and the zombies load up a big like cyber coffin, and Doom Guy's like, we need that. So they fight their way to the front of the train. Along the way, Jill almost dies. And that's when we get the only chapter from her perspective where she talks about like she likes candy and playing and butterflies. It's so weird. But they make it up there. They like kill a couple of Barons of Hell or something along the way. They find the Cyber Mummy. Jill finally has a reason to exist. She hacks into the Cyber Mummy's brain. I don't remember what they get out of that, but they do. She throws up a little laptop. It's like tick, 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 tick. Plugging wires in there. Then some weird stuff happens. I don't remember the specifics, but essentially, all right. So they're on a plane. Fly and Arlene jump out in Burbank and run to Disney Studios to find the power node that's powering the shield. And at the end of the last book, Arlene was like, I figured it out, which is exactly how the first book ended too. It's just Arlene going, I know how to do it, and then the book ends. So that happened again with them sitting in they were in like a closet in Disney Animation Studios with zombies banging on the door, and I think the computer was there, but they didn't know how to turn it off, or I don't know how to hack it. So that's where we're at. Fly and Arlene are at Disney Studios, trying to kill a computer that's powering a shield, and Albert and Jill are flying like a cargo plane, trying to get to Hawaii, because that's where the something is to save the humans. Okay, that's where we're at. It felt strange. Okay, so there's prologues and stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and read those. Why not? Enter the world of Doom with this series of original novels based on the classic game from id Software. Cool. Oh, one other thing. The third book, Infernal Sky, is the only one that was really hard to get. Like, this cost me $40. All the other books have reprints and are available for like $10 or less. This one, for some reason, very rare. Maybe I'll know why once I read it. To Arnold Schwarzenegger with no ulterior motives. Are you kidding me? What? Bro, what? What are you thinking? Okay, whatever. Infernal Sky. Prologue. Why are there monsters? Oh, he does this a lot too, where he starts a chapter with an unattributed quote, so you have no idea who's talking. It works in a movie, but it doesn't work in a book. It's just confusing. Anyway. An exhausted woman looked at her little boy, who had... Oh, it's the boy asking. Okay. Who had asked the question that was burning in her own mind. His voice didn't tremble. She reached over to wipe his face. They were not wearing camo right now, and the smudges of dirt were only dirt. The smudges of dirt were only dirt. Good. Already getting off to some good sentences. It wasn't right for a 10-year-old to be a seasoned veteran of war, she thought. But all the human survivors on Earth understood what it meant to fight for their lives against alien invaders. A long time ago, when she was 10, her only question was, are there real monsters? What a wonderful world that had been. A sane world, where nightmares stayed where they belonged, lodged in the gray matter between the ears. Only in dreams would you encounter giant floating heads that spit ball lightning, angry crimson minotaurs, shambling human zombies fresh from their own death, flying metal skulls with razor teeth dripping blood, ghosts colder than the grave, 15-foot tall demons with heavy artillery in place of hands, obscenely fat shapes, only vaguely humanoid, that could crush the life from the strongest man in a matter of seconds. And finally, there was the special horror of the mechanical spider bodies with things inside them that were far worse than any arachnid. Things. One of my editors said, never use the word thing. There's always a better word than thing. No matter what it is, if you control F your article and you find the word thing, change it. And that was really good advice. There was no way to answer David. No explanation for why dream shapes crawled across the land that was once a country called the United States on a planet called Earth. She thanked God, capital G, God, that her son was still alive. After her husband died, there were only 3 of them. 3. The number made her cry. They weren't 3 for long. She'd never had time to grieve over the man she loved. The monsters didn't give her any time at all. Her daughter, Lisa, had been 13. What about The Thing? Okay. That movie is near perfect, so yes. Only in the screenplay for The Thing can Thing be used. Hey, that's the master rule for writing, is that there's a lot of rules, but all of them have exceptions. That's why writing's great. At least her husband had died bravely, ripped apart by the steel legs of a spider thing. For a brief moment, the woman had caught a glimpse of the evil face peering out from the dome mounted on top of the mechanical body. She couldn't stop herself from crying out. Husband! Her husband couldn't hear her, but the spider thing heard everything. She still blamed herself for that momentary loss of control. Her daughter might have been alive today if Mom hadn't freaked out and drawn the attention of the mechanical horror at that instant. The sounds of the monster were the worst part as it headed toward the remaining members of the family. The heavy pounding would stay in the woman's head forever, along with the screaming of her terrified daughter, right before the girl's head was torn off. No, the husband's scream was my editorialization, Juicy Peach. I tend to do that a bit. I'll try to make it clear when I'm reading the book and when I'm just shit talking. Oh, by the way, Death by Keys, thank you very much for the 10 gift subs. Savage Mask, thank you for the 5, and Slenders, thanks for the gift. Apologies, I was too distracted by rules of nature. But thank y'all very much. All right. A human head makes a sound like nothing else when it's played with and crushed. Jesus. She thanked God David hadn't seen what happened to his sister. But lately, she found herself wondering if she should ever give thanks for anything again. Although she'd always been religious, she was forgetting how to pray. She told herself it was like the book of Job. Everyone was being tested as everything was taken away. But the book of Job didn't have spider things in it. I don't know why there are monsters, she said, finally responding to her son's question. These creatures came from outer space. We've learned some important things from them. What? He asked. She looked out the window of the basement where they'd been hiding for the past week. It was a clear night, and she could see the stars. She used to feel peaceful when she looked at the night sky. Now she hated those eternal spots of fire. We've learned they can die, she said quietly. They're not what they appear to be. They're not real demons. Demons? Like the minister used to tell us about? She smiled and ran her fingers through what was left of her son's hair. They can't take you to hell, she said. They can't do anything to your soul. Real demons don't need guns or rockets. And as I said, real demons don't die. David looked out the window for a while and then said, But they are monsters. Yes, she agreed. We have to believe in them now. But I want you to promise me something. What, Mom? She pulled him close and tried not to notice his missing arm. Tried to not stare at my son's stumpy arm. She pulled him... There's something more important than believing in monsters, David. Our minister thought we were in end times. He didn't even try to fight the spider things except with his cross and his Bible. But they can be fought with real weapons. The human race will prevail if we have faith in ourselves. I want you to promise that you'll always believe in heroes. Heroes will save us. he echoed her. The two of them stood together for a long time, looking out the window at the blind white stars. Cool. Very cool. Alright, that's just the prologue. That's just the tone setter. I can be a hero, baby. So good. Alright, I'll go ahead and do chapter 1. So melodramatic. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Again, starting with a fucking quote, an unattributed quote. So how did you guys escape from that death trap? Asked Master Gunnery Sergeant Mulligan. With one mighty leap, sir, I began, but he didn't like my tone of voice. Oh, don't give me that, Corporal Taggart, he said. You guys are holding out on me. You can't tell me you were trapped near the top of a 40-story building in downtown LA with all those freaking demons after you, then just leave it there. Okay, they weren't in downtown LA. They were in Burbank, but whatever. Fucking, of course the author doesn't understand they're different. When he said, you guys, he meant we didn't have to call him sir. Not here, not now. That's exactly it, I said with a big grin. We left. We probably ought to tell him, said Arlene sleepily. She stretched like a cat in her beach chair. Can't even get off the first page. God, shit, fuck. Alright. The first page! We probably ought to tell him, said Arlene, sleepily. She stretched like a cat in her beach chair, her breasts seeming to point at the horizon. She left her bikini top back at the hotel. The view was spectacular, from every angle. Lynn. Boobs boobing boobily. Yeah, you were right, Borg. They're not Mormon boobs yet. Unless more happened in this time skip than I know. Diplomat, thanks for the prime. Okay, Doom more like Coom, yeah. For the last few days, we'd been pretending that life had returned to normal. Hawaii was still a stronghold of humanity. On a good day, the sky was normal. Blue everywhere, not a single streak of bilious alien green. The wonderful sun was exactly what it ought to be. Yellow, round, not covered up with a new rash of sunspots. At least not today. We'd slapped on plenty of suntan lotion and we were soaking up the rays. We weren't going to waste a good day like this. The radar worked. The sonar worked. The brand new really good detection equipment worked too. Every detection device known to man was in use for sea and sky. We felt almost safe. 3 of us decided to play. The master gun was a great guy. Off-duty, he liked to be called George. He didn't mind being teased either. So yeah, they really just went from them stranded in that building, Starling being like, I've got it, and then it just clicks to them being in Hawaii. Doesn't even, well, whatever. Hawaii base employed the services of a number of scientists and doctors. I'll never forget Arlene's reaction when they said that Albert was going to be all right, despite his having taken a full face of acidic imp puke. Best of all, he wasn't going to be blind. Once Arlene heard that, she allowed herself to genuinely relax. I was damn glad that our Mormon buddy had pulled through. He'd proved to be one hell of a Marine all the way from Salt Lake City to the monster rally in LA. What's more, he'd proved to be a true friend. Dude, when he gives it to Arlene, you're going to feel differently. The doc said they could bring Ken back all the way. Ken? Oh, that's right. I think Ken is the cyber mummy. Not that Ken had been exactly dead, but he might as well have been when the alternative was to exist as a cyber mummy, serving the alien warlords who had turned Earth into a Charnel house? Alright. He'd already helped us against the enemy by communicating to us through the computer setup our teenage whiz kid, Jill, had thrown together in record time. Arlene and I had used every kinds of heavy artillery against the demonic invaders, first on Phobos, then on Deimos, and finally on good old terra firma. Jill had taught us that a good hacker was invaluable in a war against the monsters. It's in case you run into a cyber mummy. Makes sense, doesn't it? That's why we were so happy when we landed at Oahu and found not only a fully operational military establishment, but also a prime collection of scientists. Arlene and I were warriors. Our task was to buy the human race that most precious of all commodities, time. Victory would require a lot more than muscle and guts. It would require all the brainpower left on the old mud ball. We needed to learn everything about the creatures, or these creatures that had brought doom to the human race, and then we would pay them back. Big time. Yeah, Arlene and I felt good about the men and women in white coats. For one thing, they said it was okay to swim. It had been such a long time since I'd plunged my body into something as reasonable as cool salt water that I hardly cared about their reports. If it didn't look like a pool of green or red sludge, that was all I needed to know. The Pacific Ocean looked fine to yours truly. Oh yeah, he does that a lot. He calls himself yours truly. All the time. Especially today, as we enjoyed the fresh salt breezes that would never carry a whiff of sour lemon zombie stench. Jill had decided to spend the day working instead of joining us. One of the best research scientists had taken her under his wing. Albert had gone to town. Of course, the town was every bit as much of a high-security military zone as the hotel. I'd never had better barracks. After what we'd all been through, this place was heaven on earth. The other islands were also secure, but they were not set up for the easy life we enjoyed here. I took a sip of my Jack Daniels. I reflected on the miracle that I felt secure enough to risk taking a drink. Oh, hold on. Let me read that again. As I took a sip of my Jack Daniels, there we go. I reflected on the miracle that I felt secure enough to risk taking a drink. For the past month of nonstop hell, first in space and then on Earth, I wouldn't have risked dulling my senses for a second, or saturating my bodily tissues with anything but stimulants. Earth could still count on Corporal Flynn Taggart, Fox Company, 15th Light Drop Infantry Regiment, United States Marine Corps, 888-23-9912. Is that his social? Whatever. I was in for the duration. Glancing over at Arlene, I was pleased to see that she was healing nicely. Even though we treated each other as best buddies instead of potential lovers, I wasn't blind. Even the flaming balls of demon mucus hadn't burned out my capacity to see that PFC Arlene Sanders had the perfect female body. Female. I started this book off with a filler episode. It's recap. It's the recap episode. Couldn't help but notice you have female lumps. This is most pleasing to me. Permit me to gaze upon thy lumps, milady. Yeah, he still... At least Fly still takes the time to appreciate the finer things. From every angle. God, fucking shit. Okay, perfect female body. At least by my standards. Oh, it gets better. Slender, but with well-cut muscles, and with everything in ideal proportion. Good news, milady. I've measured your proportions, and they are perfect. By my standards, anyway. It will bring you no end of pleasure to know that I enjoy gazing upon thy form. Oh, crap. 50 anonymous gifts? Ooh! Ooh! Oh my! Somebody wants more literature. I find your lumps mathematically sound. Here, let me turn down the alert here. Just make it a little whisper in the background, because that's a lot of wows. It doesn't feel right to bundle them, you know? It can just be one alert, like so-and-so gifted 50 subs, but I don't know. I feel like you put that much money and you should get all the little gifts. Not that they're a huge draw, but thank you very much, Anonymous. That's gonna, yeah, it's gonna add an hour and another chapter right off the top. So I'll just roll right into that after this chapter. Arlene has ideal proportions. Albert is gonna be a lucky man. I wonder how Doom Guy's gonna talk about that, because he's not gonna handle it well. Maybe he'll be like self-aware. He's like, yeah, I was a little jealous thinking about Albert sticking it to her perfect proportions. But then I remembered that we're just friends. I don't know. I don't know, man. We'll see. Sometimes Arlene did her mind-reading act. Now she glanced in my direction and gave me the once-over. I guess similar thoughts were going through her mind. More than our bodies were healing, our souls had taken a... What? More than our bodies were healing, our souls had taken a beating. Canister Cop, thank you for gifting 5 subs. Might wrap back around and do 2 more. We'll see. Let's see here. Our souls had taken a beating. When we first arrived on the island and Arlene could finally accept that we had found a pocket of safety, she had tried to sleep, but she was so stressed out that only drugs could take her under. Even then, she'd wake up every half hour just as exhausted as before. I wasn't doing too well when we first arrived either, but I was too worried about her to pay attention to my own aches and pains. She said she'd never felt so empty. She couldn't stop worrying about Albert. So I told her all the things she'd said to me when I was down. About how it was our turn to man the barricades, and we had to keep going past every obstacle of terror and fatigue and despair. Then I shook her hard and told her to come out of it because we were on vacation in Hawaii, damn it. Couldn't help but notice her perfect female lumps jiggling as I shaked her. He didn't say that, but he probably did. Master Gun Mulligan was an invaluable help through this period of adjustment. He was an old friend none of us had ever met before. You meet that kind in the service if you're lucky. That makes up for all the Lieutenant Weems types. Oh, he is still pissed about Weems. Fucking Weems. Of course, you should only tease a friend so far. The Master Gun had every right to know we'd pulled off our impossible escape from the old Disney Tower. He just had the bad luck to be caught between Arlene Sanders and Fly Taggart in a game of who gives in first. All right, said Mulligan half to himself, slipping a little as he climbed out of his beach chair. He was a big man, and he was the right... Wait, what? He was a big man, and he was right at the weight limit. Okay. He didn't really have to worry about it, though. No one would worry about the minutiae of military rules for a good long time. You could fight and follow orders. The survivors of civilization as we know it would sure as hell find a task for you in this humans army. Mulligan planted his feet firmly, put his hands on his sizable hips, and gave us his personal ultimatum. Here's the deal, he said. I'm going back to the hotel to bring us a 6-pack of ice-cold beer. When I return, I have every intention of sharing the wealth. That's what will happen if you make me happy. But if you want to see a really unhappy Marine, then don't tell me how the two of you escaped from a 40-story building with a mob of devils after your blood, when the two of you are in a sealed room, the only exit to which is one window offering you a sheer drop to certain doom. Who's saying this? You've expressed yourself with admirable clarity, said Arlene. She loved showing off that college education. Didn't matter to me if she'd ever graduated. She'd picked up plenty of annoying traits for me to forgive. Yeah, right, he said. We'll take your suggestion under advisement. Arlene laid it on thicker. Bullshit, said Mulligan, turning his back on us and storming off down the beach. 1, 2, 3, 4, I said. We love the Marine Corps, he boomed back at us, still headed towards his and maybe our beer. I think we better tell him, I said. He wants to know who the big hero is, she replied, so we can get an autograph. I noted that she didn't say his or her. You're on, I replied. God, it was fine to sit in the sun, soaking up rays and alcohol, watching the gentle waves rolling into the shore, seeing an actual seagull once in a while, and giving a hard time to a really nice man who was a newfound friend. Our moment of pure relaxation was interrupted, but not by anything satanic. It was an honor when the highest ranking officer in Hawaii, and maybe in the human race for all we knew, strolled over to talk to us while he was off duty. He wasn't our commanding officer, so that made us slightly more at ease when he insisted on it. The way Arlene blushed suggested she would have worn the top to her bikini. She'd expected a visit from the CEO of New Pearl Harbor Naval Base. New Pearl Harbor Naval Base Vice Admiral Kimmel. What are you two up to? Asked Admiral Kimmel. We hadn't noticed him walking down the beach. He'd come from the direction where the sun was in our eyes. Sir, came out of our mouths simultaneously, and we started to get up. As you were, Marines. Then he smiled and repeated his pleasantry as if he expected an answer. We were unprepared for your surprise attack, Arlene said to the commanding officer, and got away with it? He laughed. The admiral continued standing. Sometimes rank avoids its privileges. He took off his white straw hat and used it to fan himself in the sweltering heat. His thin legs were untouched by the least hint of tan, but there was plenty of color, courtesy of his Bermuda shorts and the tackiest Hawaiian shirt of all time. When he was off duty, he wore this uniform to announce his leisure. I'm glad someone of your generation knows the history of her country, the Admiral said, complimenting Arlene. Are you fucking... Okay. It's a strange coincidence that I have the same name as the Admiral who was here when the Japanese burled... Oh, fucking Christ. Okay, I gotta slow down. Yeah, what were his shorts' proportions? I'm sure they were perfect. His package bouncing mightily as he stumbles down the beach. Penis tip pointing towards the horizon. Alright. It's a strange coincidence that I have the same name as the Admiral who was here when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. How much of our history will be destroyed in this demon war, even if the human race survives? Guard what is in your head. The history books of the future may be written by you. Okay. Arlene sighed. When we go back into action, I don't think we'll be doing much writing except for reports. Signing off with famous last words, I threw in, helpfully. It suddenly occurred to me that I might know something about the Admiral that would be news to Arlene, who was the acknowledged expert on science fiction movies and novels. It would be nice to stump her right here and now on something important. What, in front of somebody? What a prick. God damn. Yeah, thing's still going up. Oh, it's 69. Nice. Yeah, what a douche. He's like, I'm gonna take her down a peg in front of the highest ranking officer. Jeez. I'm gonna prove she's not a real Star Wars fan. Before I could get a word out, though, Arlene smiled and said, Fly, are you familiar with Admiral Kimmel's book? He's a Pearl Harbor revisionist. Damn, she had done it to me again, making exactly the point I was about to make. How dare you say what I was going to say first? Hold on. With this final proof of Arlene's telepathic ability, I decided in all future combat situations to let her go over the hill first. Especially if there happened to be a steam demon on the other side. He's so salty, he's like, I'm gonna send you in to die. God. Admiral Kimmel chuckled. If I hadn't been friends with the late President of the United States, I never would have written that book, he told us, remembering the pre-invasion days. The president had died when Washington was captured by the bad guys. He was the one who changed my mind about Pearl Harbor, the Admiral continued. Not my Japanese wife, as many believe. You know what? No one brought that up. No one brought that up. Fucking shit. Feel a yank. Thanks for gifting out 5 subs. Yeah, okay. I believe the evidence proves that top officials in Washington withheld important information from the commanding officers at Pearl Harbor before the Japanese attack in December of 1941. Well, we don't have to worry about that sort of nonsense in this war. So he's an FDR did Pearl Harbor kind of guy? Because he used to be friends with the president? But not because of his Japanese wife, as many believe. I nodded, adding, There's no Washington. As we talked, I noticed that Arlene became more relaxed. We discussed our military backgrounds in the days before the monsters came. Ew. I was glad we had a man in charge of the island who had been a division officer on a battleship, and a captaining action in the Gulf before that. He'd been doing a shore tour as the commander when the world capsized. Oh, T. Wood, thanks for the prime. There's a pleasant sight, he said, pointing at the sea. There was a cloud on the horizon, a small white cloud. He started to leave and then turned back, his face suddenly as stern as a bust of Julius Caesar. His mouth was his strongest feature, as he said, "They won't beat us. It's as if these islands have been given a second chance. There will never be a surprise attack here, not ever again. Let them come, and their thousands or their millions. We're going to teach them that we are worse monsters than they are. This is our world, and we're not giving it up. And it won't stop there. We'll take the battle to them, somewhere, somehow." He wanted to keep talking, but he'd run out of words, so his mouth kept working in silence, like a weapon being fired on an empty chamber after the ammo is used up. We both felt the emotion from this strong old man. Arlene stood up and put her hand on his arm. She helped him regain his composure. The gesture wasn't regulation, but who cared? Ooh, RJSED, or RJ said, thank you very much for the resub. And hello. Hello to you. For years, I'd been asked why a rabid individualist like me had chosen a military life. Some of the people who had asked that question understood that I wanted a life with honor, especially after having lived it with a father who didn't have a clue. They could even understand someone putting his life on the line for his fellow man. I was individualism that confused them. He's saying he's Sigma. He's saying he's Sigma right now. I became a Marine because I believe in freedom. The old American dream that had defied the nightmares of so many other countries. Every Independence Day, I made a point of reading the Declaration of Independence out loud. He's a fucking Sigma libertarian. From the roof? Like with a bullhorn? God. Fly is the best. I loved my country enough to fight for it. Now we faced an enemy that threatened everything and everyone on the planet. Any military system that had its head stuck up its own bureaucratic ass was finished. Now was the time to adapt or die. Now was the time to really send in the Marines. All right, chapter 2. We're well past one extension. We might actually have 2 baked up. But we'll see. No? Okay. Look, it's stopped. Okay. Okay, so we're most of the way to the next one already. Change the timers here. Cool. Thank you guys so much. Every time I do one of these, I'm like, oh, it's just going to end 5 hours in. But already past that, so great. Chapter 2. You guys have already unlocked chapter 2, so I'm going to read it. Wombat Duck, it is not over. We are going to keep going. This is a pretty short chapter, though. How many chapters are in this book? Let me see. It's usually like 30-something? 30. Okay. Chapter 2. "I almost brought you some iced tea," said Mulligan, "with lots of lemon." Arlene and I both grimaced. "He's getting mean," she said. "A sadist," I agreed. We told the Master Gun plenty about our adventures, and he had fixated on the way Albert, Jill, Arlene, and I had passed ourselves off as zombies by rubbing rotten lemons and limes all over ourselves. The odor of the zombies had forever spoiled the taste of citrus for me. "Of course, I could let you have one of these instead," Mulligan continued, holding out 2 frosty Limbaugh brews, one in each paw. "The man's getting desperate," I said. "Who goes first?" asked Arlene, ready to spill the beans. Mulligan hoped they would be tastier than the typical MRE. The Admiral, how do I keep saying that? Name is giving me brain rot. The Admiral had left us. He looked like an old beachcomber as he wandered down the beach. I thought about what he'd said, about how he'd tied the past and the future together with these precious islands as the center of his universe. Maybe they were the center of the universe for all humanity. "Beers first," I volunteered, holding my hand out. Mulligan looked as happy as Jill when I let her drive the truck. He passed out the brews and settled his considerable bulk back in his beach chair. Jesus. Bat-phobic? I don't know if that counts as phobia. That's more just like being a shithead. Once upon a time, I began, but Arlene punched me so hard. All right. Arlene punched me so hard, it made her breasts jiggle very nicely. Very nicely. Arlene punched me so hard it made my package jiggle very nicely. I could feel my testicles sloshing around in my underwear. Oh, Christ, man. Dude gets punched in the face, but still his eyes are like razor locked on, titties jiggling. Jaws dislocated, teeth shooting out of his mouth, but he's like, nice. Oh, titties. With that kind of encouragement, I got plenty serious. Very nicely. Yeah. Breast jiggle very nicely. Oh, fucking Christ. Oh, all right. Okay, all right. Okay. We had to take down the energy wall so Jill could fly out of LA and get here, I began. In the Disney Tower, we located a room full of computers hooked into a collection of alien biotech. Yeah, Mulligan said impatiently. I remember all that, so get to the window already. So I did. We were too high. I'd never liked heights, but it seemed best to open the windows. We took down the energy wall, at least, I had said over my shoulder. Jill must notice it's gone and start treading air for Hawaii. Arlene nodded, bleak even in victory. I didn't need alien psionics to know she was thinking of Albert. The war techies will track her as an unknown rider, said Arlene, and they'll scramble some jets. They should be able to make contact and talk her down. Great. Got a hot plan to talk us down? I asked my buddy. Arlene shook her head. Surprised that didn't cause her breasts to jiggle. I had a crazy wish that before Albert was blinded, and before Arlene and I found ourselves in this cul-de-sac, I'd played Dutch uncle to the two lovebirds, complete with blessings and unwanted advice. Okay, so he's kind of acknowledging that. Somehow this did not seem the ideal moment to suggest that Arlene seriously study the Mormon faith, or some related religion if she really loved good old Albert. The sermon went into my favorite mental file, the one marked later. She shook her head. There's no way, she began. Unless... Yes, I asked, trying not to let the sound of slavering monsters outside. The door added panic to the atmosphere. Arlene stared at the door, at the console, then out the window. She went over to the window as if she had all the time in the world and looked straight down, then up. For some reason, she looked up. She faced me again, wearing a big, crafty Arlene Sanders smile. You're not going to believe this, Fly Taggart, but I think I have it. I know how to get us down and get us to Hawaii. I smiled, convinced she'd finally cracked. Great idea, Arlene. We could use a vacation from all this pressure. You don't believe me. You're right. I don't believe you. Arlene smiled slyly. She was using the early bird that got the worm smile. Lynn Taggart, bring me some duct tape from the toolbox, an armload of computer switch wiring, and the biggest goddamn boot you can find. The boot was the hard part. The screaming, grunting, scraping, mewling, hissing, roaring, gurgling, ripping, and crackling sound effects from beyond the door inspired me to speed up the scavenger hunt. Hurrying back to the window with the items, I saw Arlene leaning out and craning her neck to look up. Do you see it? Do you see it? She asked as I joined her. Oh, ugh. Thank you for the sub. It is my pleasure to provide hard gaming on tap and also fine literature. Yeah, I am reading Fly Like Duke Nukem. Every boomer shooter dude is Duke Nukem. He kind of acts like Duke Nukem. He's a dumb idiot who's good at killing monsters. He's a little more overtly misogynistic than Duke Nukem ever was. And Duke Nukem never leered at a child. So, all credits in favor of Duke Nukem. I used to not be such a fan of Duke Nukem, thinking that it sort of symbolized a dumb misogyny in gaming that I was growing increasingly tired of. But in retrospect, Duke Nukem was not as problematic as a bunch of other games have been. Anyway. Duke Nukem just likes a good time. He just likes beers and cigars and watching ladies dance. Take it, baby. Okay. Here we go. You don't believe me. You're right, I don't believe you. Oh wait, I'm way past that. Do you see it? She asked as I joined her. Clear as day, there was a window washer scaffold hanging above us like a gateway to paradise. When the invasion put a stop to mundane activities, all sorts of jobs had been left uncompleted. In this case, it meant quantities of manila hemp rope dangling like the tentacles of an octopus, a few lengths of chain, with inch-long links were even more promising than the rope. The chain looked rusted, but I was certain that it would support our weight. Duke Nukem Forever is definitely peak gaming misogyny. I want to play through Forever again. Yeah, Duke Nukem believes sex work is work. Yeah, he never looked down on the dancers. He gave them money. Want to see them titties. I need to play Forever again because I don't remember there being anything like actually misogynistic. I just want to play Forever again. I remember Forever somewhat fondly. There aren't enough like gimmicky minigame filled linear shooters anymore. No one wants them, but I do. I'm kind of hoping with things like Game Pass and maybe even games like Stray that have like a 6 to 8 hour runtime being okay, that that kind of game can come back. So many annoying gimmicks in Forever. Yeah, I always thought that's what Duke Nukem was all about. Half-Life Alyx kind of reminded me of Duke Nukem a little bit. Maybe it's just because of like being able to interact with things in the world. Okay, all right. Scaffold, support our weight. The tentacles started above us and extended well below the 40th floor. Not all the way to the ground, but a lot farther away from the demons in the hallways working so hard to make our acquaintance. Did you play Gat Out of Hell? I did not. No, the Saints Row series I should catch up on too. But those went open world. I wasn't super fond of the Saints Row kind of open world, a million little minigame shits. I'm excited for the new one. I really like Volition. I've loved Volition ever since Free Space 2. I'm getting distracted. That reminds me, I gotta tack the Free Space games onto the end. So it's Ace Combat, and then Wing Commander, and then Free Space 1 and 2. I think that's the ultimate tour of narrative flight games. Okay, back to the book. Yes, tentacles. Arlene used the duct tape and the wiring to create a spaghetti ladder that didn't look as if it would hold her weight very long, never mind my extra kilos, but we needed an extra leg up to get over to the ropes. Great. Great, I said. This looks like a job for Fly Taggart. Before I could clamber out the window, however, her hand was on my arm. Hold on a minute, she said. My idea, my mission. The locked door was rattling like a son of a bitch, and the thought of our entrails decorating the office made me a trifle impatient. That was one kind of spaghetti I could pass over. Arlene, I said as calmly as possible under the circumstances. I have absolute confidence in you, but this is no time to hose the mission. Let's face it, I have more upper body strength and a greater reach than you do, so I should go first. While I explained the situation, we both worked feverishly to finish our makeshift rope. Then I tied it around my waist. Naturally, I gave her no opportunity to argue. I was at that window so fast, she probably feared for my life. A good way to keep her from staying pissed. I took one mighty leap, making sure she had held the other end of the lifeline. I climbed up and over, or I grabbed hold of the nearest rope and started lowering myself, groaning a bit at the strain, and reminding myself that I had all this great upper body strength. I only wished I had more of it to spare. Yeah, your boobs will just get in the way. Once those titties start jiggling, you won't be able to hold your balance. Once I was on the ropes, I swung myself over to where Arlene could reach them more easily. She clambered out the window, over my head, and followed my lead. I really have no idea what they're doing. I'm not able to visualize this. Whatever. The annoying voice in the back of my head chose that precise moment to start an argument. Damned voice had a lousy sense of timing. Getting tired, are you? Feeling a bit middle-aged around the chest area? Old heart hanging in there? The arms are strong from all those push-ups and pull-ups, but how's the grip? Your hands are weaker than they used to be, aren't they? You know you haven't had these injuries looked at. Nothing a blue sphere couldn't fix up, I muttered. Medikits aren't good enough for you, Corporal. You'd rather trust that alien crap, huh? And how do you know that you and Arlene weren't altered in some diabolical manner when your lives were saved in that infernal blue light? Okay, so that was internal monologue. Now he's talking. I'm hanging from a freaking rope and you choose this moment to worry about that? I shouted. Why, are you alright? Arlene shouted down. Okay, I called back, feeling like a complete idiot. Normally I don't argue out loud with a voice in my head. Someone remind me what the blue spheres are? The blue spheres are mega healths. And those are just literally blue blue spheres in Doom. Cerulithor. Yeah, I'm alternating Metal Gear Rising gameplay with Doom novel reading. And as soon as I finish this chapter, I'll get back to Metal Gear. But yeah, it's an alternating thing, so just stick around. There will be Metal Gear. Don't go weird on me now, she said. If I fall, I want my strong He-Man to catch little old me. No problemo, I promised. But I think we're getting enough exercise as things stand. Well, at least I'd convinced her I was playing with a full deck again. As if life had become too easy for us, the door in the office flew off with such force that it smashed through what was left of the window and went sailing in the direction of the freeway. The door was as black and twisted as if someone had turned it into burnt toast and tossed it in the trash. The first monster to peer out the window, if black dots count as eyes, was one of the things Arlene had wisely dubbed a fire eater. It must have only recently joined the other pukes and taken care of the door problem for them. In a flash, it could solve the rope problem too, burning our lifeline to cinders. We didn't have a fire extinguisher this time. Fire Guy wasn't alone either. He was the gatecrasher, bringing with him a whole monster convention. They'd be pouring down the ropes after us like molasses on a string if we didn't do something fast. Like molasses on a string. What's a good metaphor for monsters climbing down a rope? Yeah, strange visual. I guess it works. I'm thinking about it. I stopped this. So there's a break. I stopped the story there because I wanted to finish my beer, and because I had my eye on another can of Limbaugh. At least he said that can, and not a different one. The Master Gun had brought a 6-pack, so with the aid of higher arithmetic, I figured I had another one coming. And, asked Mulligan, fire in his eye? And the way his mouth was working, you could say fire in the hole, too. Yeah. Crash Poke. Thanks for the sub. Another month, another day with Law Dog, and what a day. As the fire... Okay. As the fire eater... Wait, who's talking right now? I guess this is... Doom Guy talking. As the fire eater was getting ready to burn our ropes. And you can always tell an attack is coming by the way its skin bubbles and its body shimmers like a heat mirage in the desert. I swung out and then came in hard, kicking in a window with one try. In the remaining seconds, I pulled the rope taut, and Arlene shimmied down into my arms as the tongues of flame raced after her. But we'd made it to a much lower floor. We had a 12-story head start, so we booked. Story is right, thundered Mulligan. I've never heard so much bullshit. For one grim moment, I wasn't at all sure I'd be getting my second beer. Okay, and that ends chapter 2. So we're very, very slowly learning the story of how Fly and Arlene escaped the demons at the end of the last book. They ended the last book in a cliffhanger, and now they're stretching out what actually happened over the course of this book. It's so stupid. I normally use that Chili's gift card that I won from from Hang Time as my bookmark, but I don't remember where it is. Wait, never mind. I found it. I haven't used it yet. Need to do that. Thanks, Hang Time. Thinking about you. What's this book called? Just Doom? It's Doom Infernal Sky. I don't know why the sky is infernal yet, but again, thank you all very much for your subs so far. And yeah, next time on Dragon Ball Z, I guess Fly continues to drink beer on the beach and really stretch out a story. Right. Next time. I need to turn that down a smidge. That seems good. Okay. Last we left our heroes, Fly and Arlene. They're soaking up the rays on the beach in Hawaii, telling the sordid tale of how they got out of the pickle they found themselves in at the previous book, which was in Disney Studios, which is in downtown LA, apparently. Not Burbank, even though they said Burbank in the last book. Taking out a device that was powering a shield, blocking them from flying to Hawaii, where the last, I guess, organized military resistance is. They did it somehow, but they were stuck. So we're hearing the story, the backstory of how they're getting out. And they're telling this to Mulligan. You finished Metal Gear already? No. Every time we extend the stream, I read a new chapter from the Doom novel. That's the air quote reward baited out for people's generosity. All right, chapter 3. Hold on, said Mulligan, guarding his small ocean of beer, as the larger ocean sent armies of waves to die on the beach. I'm not buying it. When I was a kid, I was in the Boy Scouts. I carried the heaviest knapsack on camping trips. I won all the merit badges. I was a good scout, but the other kids still beat me up and teased me all the time. You want to guess why? Why? Asked Arlene, genuinely interested and not the least bit annoyed by the mysterious direction the conversation was taking. Partly because I was a chunky kid, but also because I loved comic books. They thought I was gullible or something. They thought I'd believe damn near anything, but I'm telling you, Fly. He turned those cold blue eyes on me. This story of yours is bullshit. You believe the part about his starting to lose his mind while he was on the rope, don't you? Asked Arlene. Well, Mulligan began. I left nothing out of my gospel rendition, I said. Especially not his verisimilitude, Arlene threw in. Huh? Came the response from both Mulligan and me. Still sounds bogus to me, concluded the master gun, inhaling the rest of his brew. That's because it didn't happen that way, said Arlene. I'll give you the authentic version for another beer. Yeah, right, the sergeant said morosely, but he handed her a beer, and she started her engines. With one mighty leap, she began. George Mulligan groaned. All right, break. So I think it's more like changing perspective now. This is great writing. This is great writing. The two perspectives, the jumping back and forth in time. Wow, how do they do it? Flynn Taggart, bring me some duct tape from the toolbox, an armload of computer switch wiring, and the biggest goddamn boot you can find. He looked at me like I was crazy. Okay, so I'm in Arlene's head now. Excuse me. The scaffold was our ticket out of there, but first we had to get over to it. It made sense for me to go first because I weighed less. The ledge was narrow and the chains and ropes were sufficiently out of reach so that a lifeline seemed like a good idea. At least it would give me more than one chance in case I fell. The sounds at the heavy reinforced door told me two things. First, there was one hell of an enemy out there. Second, the most powerful ones could not be in front. The Hell Prince would have huffed and puffed the door down faster than a politician would grab his pension. I always imagine somebody's bow tie spinning when I read stupid jokes like that. Even a demon pinky could have chewed his way through that door as if it was a candy bar. So the wimps were up front, and this gave us a little more time. While Fly was collecting the stuff, we received more evidence supporting my theory. I heard screams that I'd have recognized anywhere. The noise imps make when they're being ripped apart. They were up front and not strong enough to break through. It occurred to me that this military-quality door dated back to the time of Walt Disney himself. I was glad that Disney had been a paranoid right-wing type, according to the biographies. A more trusting sort would never have installed the door that was saving our collective ass. But it wasn't going to hold much longer. "Got it," Fly announced, trotting back with a wiretape and boot. "What's your plan?" I told him, I showed him. He nitpicked. "I should go first because of upper male body strength and a longer reach." "I weigh less. Besides, it's my idea. You're going to be too busy to go first anyway." He opened his mouth to ask what I meant, but the shredding of the door provided the answer. Talons appeared like little metal helmets, leaving furrows behind them as they sliced through the last barrier between us and them. I don't understand. Grabbing his sig cow, Fly started blasting through the door before the first one even appeared. I saw that my buddy wouldn't be able to help with the makeshift rope, so I tied one end to a heavy safe and the other around my waist and clambered out the window pronto. What are talons? I don't know. Appearing like helmets? That makes no sense. Luck was with me. Fly and I disagree about luck. He thinks you make your own. I think you're lucky or you're not. The ledge was so narrow that I couldn't imagine Fly negotiating it. The stupid little lifeline came apart before my hand was on one of the beautiful, thick, inviting ropes. I shouted my patented war cry, based on all the westerns I'd seen when I was a kid, and jumped the rest of the way. I knew I'd better be right about luck. I swung out far and heard a long creaking sound overhead, which was fine with me as long as it wasn't followed by a loud snap. Just steady creaking as the rope settled into supporting my weight. I didn't waste a moment swinging over to a sturdy-looking cable chain. I didn't trust the chain, so I tested it out. The damn thing snapped. I hung over LA like an advertisement, glad for the rope. My left hand was covered with rust. I would have thought that the chain would outlast the rope, but maybe some of the links were caught in a random energy beam. A lot of stuff raced through my mind. I filed most of it for future reference, if I had a future. The stuff overhead reminded me of the last time I was aboard ship. On the ocean instead of in space, I mean. The only reason I wasn't splattered all over the street below was that the window washing equipment was securely attached on the roof. I'd hoped no alien energy burst had done any damage up there. "Fly!" I yelled. "Coming, coming, coming," he shouted back. Ew. There was no double entendre in either of our minds. The book really acknowledged it. Gross. My bud would either be a fly on the wall out here or a squashed bug inside. He chose fly on the wall. I made like Tarzan, or maybe I should say Sheena of the jungle, and swung over towards the window. The scaffolding held. Fly held on. As he leaped out the window, a red claw the size of his head missed, severing his jugular vein by an inch. I couldn't believe I used to feel sorry for the Minotaur trapped in the lair until Theseus came to put him out of his misery. I'd never look at those old myths the same way. That's weird. A weird thing to say. Fake Face Chan, hello. Thank you for the sub. Hope you have fun on Metal Gear Day. Oh, I'm having a great time so far. Game's so great. Everyone's been really generous so far, so thank you all very much. But yeah, I'm having a great time. Let's see. Fly had it tougher than I did because he was hanging like a piece of sacrificial meat directly outside the window where the enemy was massing. He was holding onto the rope with one hand, leaving the other free to fire repeatedly at that rectangle of horror and doom. Oh, they said it again. Fly, I'll cover you if you climb lower, I promised. Grateful for the time I'd spent rappelling down cliffs in my high school days, I maneuvered so that the rope was wrapped around me like a lonely boa constrictor, freeing my gun hand. As I started firing... How do you do that? Maneuver a rope around you while two people are hanging on it? Whatever. As I started firing 30 caliber rounds at the window, Fly slung his weapon over his shoulder and used both hands to lower himself. When he was safe enough, safe being a relative... When he was safe enough, safety being relative when you're playing tag with all the denizens of hell, he yelled, "My turn to cover you." I made like a monkey and headed straight for certain death. Fly kept up a barrage that was truly impressive. The odds were at an all-time low, but as I made it past the window, I was ready to rethink my position on God. Fly and Albert had God. I had luck, and a fireball that came so close it singed my hair. Well, my high and tight needed a trim. Fly ran out of rope, and I joined him just in time to see his very special expression. The one he only wears when Operations R Us has closed its doors permanently. I don't know what that means. I couldn't help myself. I looked up. There was no mistaking a fire eater, and this one was getting ready to fry everything it could see. The only hope was to break one of the windows, get inside the building quicker than a thought, and then haul ass down the street. We had one chance. Fortunately, we'd brought along that really big boot. And then a break. Shifting perspective again. "Oh, give me a break, you too," begged Mulligan, thoroughly beaten. "I don't care how you escaped from the tower. It's none of my business. I'll never ask again." He threw the remaining beers at Fly and me as if they were grenades. The way the brews were shaken up, they might as well have been. While I pointed mine at the broad expanse of the Pacific Ocean and fired off the white spray, Mulligan changed his tone. I don't like anything pointing to the horizon. Her boobs are already doing that, and now they're firing white spray. Explosion. He didn't sound like a wily old master gun. He didn't even sound like a Marine. He sounded like a Boy Scout trying to requisition a last piece of candy. "Okay," I said. "I'll tell you the rest from the point where Fly and I have no disagreements about what happened." "Thank you," said our victim. Wow, and that's chapter 3. Good God. Why? They're just killing time! This is twice now that they've just told bullshit stories, and that's been the chapter. Well, at least she got to fire off her white spray. That probably feels good. Alright, chapter 4. So, reminder. The book opened with Flynn, with Fly and Arlene soaking up the rays on the beach in Hawaii. And now they're telling the gap between the last book and this one to a new character named Mulligan. But they bullshitted him twice. They're making up some like tall tales, some diehard shit about them swinging around on the scaffolding of the Disney production studios. This is a Doom novel. Alright, chapter 4. No sooner had Mulligan agreed to be a good boy and let me finish my story than he changed his mind. Just like a man. Sanders, he said. Yes, George? How about we do it a little differently this time? I'll ask questions and you answer them. How's that? Is that your first question? I asked the master gun. Okay, so I am Arlene still. Yes, I'm in Arlene's head. They never tell you. You jump around a lot. Okay, is that your first question? I asked the master gun. Arlene. Fly addressed me with his I'm not worried yet tone of voice. The one he uses right before he tells me that I've gone over the line. He has a big advantage in these situations. He seems to know where the line is. Mulligan just sat there grinning, waiting for a better response from a mere PFC. Okay, I said. What do you want to know? Looks like I should have brought more beer, he admitted. Fly still had some Jack Daniels left, so he'd be feeling no pain. All I had to get me through was truth, justice, and the American way. When you reached ground level, you didn't have any wheels waiting for you, Mulligan said. There's no way you could have outrun those mob of things. There's no way you could have outrun a mob of those things. Excuse me. No problem, I told him. I hot-wired a car. He grimaced. Now I suppose Corporal Taggart will tell the story of how he was the one who... No! Fly happily interrupted. Arlene hot-wired the car all by herself. Can't imagine where a nice girl like her ever picked up such a specialized skill. I gave Fly the finger, and it didn't even wait for Mulligan to ask what happened next. I drove like crazy for the airport with Fly riding shotgun. I had the crazy idea that I could hotwire a plane and fly out of there. Thanks, said Fly. Let me get this straight. Mulligan returned to the fray. At that time, he didn't realize the teenager was still waiting for you. Jill, said Fly. Jill, Mulligan repeated. I enjoyed this next bit. We told her in no uncertain terms that she was not to wait for us. We'd risked our lives taking down the force field so Jill could fly Albert and Ken to safety. So naturally she disobeyed orders, said Fly. You got quite a kid there, observed the master gun with true respect for Jill. Fly and I exchanged looks. Jill is loyal. Fly spoke those words with dignity. Mulligan steered the discussion back to my monologue. So, you only had to arrive to the airport. Except we didn't make it in the first car. No great loss, as it was an unexploded Pinto until it exploded. The Hell Prince stepped right out into the middle of the street, and you know what happens when they fire those green energy pulses from their wrist launchers. You trade in the old model you're driving for a new one, Mulligan grinned. He was into the spirit of the thing now. Thanks to my superb driving skills. You were weaving all over the road like a drunk on New Year's Eve, Fly interjected. Exactly, I agreed without missing a beat. So we survived the surprise attack. I slammed the car into a row of garbage cans, and we wasted no time exiting the vehicle and returning fire. I wonder what Corporal Taggart was doing all this time, said Mulligan. Watching the rear, said Fly. Perhaps you've forgotten that we were being chased. So then what? Good luck, was what? I told the master gun. An abandoned UPS truck was parked on the side of the street. We made our way over to it, simply hoping it was in working order. Well, we hit the jackpot. Inside was a gun nut's paradise. A whole shipment addressed to Aaron Enterprises. The bazooka, said Fly. Don't forget to tell him about the bazooka. Poor Mulligan ran out of beer. He was on his own now. The Hell Prince, as you call him, didn't fry your butts before you could use all this stuff? Nope, I said. His second shot missed us by a country click. Then what happened? We fried his butt, I recounted. But Mulligan started a thought and came to a dead stop. He tried again. We all know how freaking stupid these things are, but I'm surprised that in all your encounters, the enemy never has any luck. I wonder about that myself sometimes, Fly admitted. I wouldn't bet on my survival in most of these situations, but Arlene and I seem very hard to kill. That's why we're certain to be put back on a strike team. What helped us that time, I continued, was a bunch of pumpkins were in the vanguard of our pursuers. Oh yeah, said Mulligan. Your name for those crazy flying things. I remember your stories about how the pumpkins and hell princes hate each other. We learned that on Deimos, Fly contributed. While the pumpkins and hell princes wasted each other's time, we prepared the bazooka for the hell prince. Between the pumpkins and us, we took him down, which only left us with the problem of being surrounded by half a dozen deadly spheres. Fly and I used another trick that worked back on Deimos. We stood back to back, and each of us laid down fire in a 270-degree sweep. That created the ingredients for a very large pie. Oh, because they're like slicing a pie? Good God. Okay. So then you checked out the contents of the truck. Like I said, it was gun nut heaven. We did a quick inventory and took what was easiest to get at. Fly remembered a grim moment. I opened one box expecting to find ammo, but inside was a case of books defending the Second Amendment. I even remember the title, Stopping Power by J. Neil Schulman. The stopping power I needed right then could not be provided by book pages. Oh, a bunch of pumpkin mash equals pie. Okay, sure. Make a pumpkin pie. Got it. So Fly was pissed off that he found a book supporting the Second Amendment instead of just more guns. Fly is a real treasure. I had a moment of frustration too, I said. I found the shipping form. It showed that the most inaccessible box contained a number of specialized handguns, including one I'd always wanted. There simply wasn't enough time to unload the truck. What was the specialized gun? Asked Mulligan. Watch out, Fly warned him, but it was too late. The master gun had asked the question. It's a Super Blackhawk .357 Magnum caliber sidearm. Looks like an old Western 6 gun, but that's where the resemblance ends. The only drawback used to be that it didn't conceal well with its 9-inch barrel, but in today's world that's no problem. Who needs to conceal weapons any longer? Anyway, you can knock something over at 100 yards with this gun, but it helps to have a scope. Best of all, the Blackhawk has a transfer bar mechanism. If you have a live round under the hammer and strike it with a heavy object, it won't discharge. Isn't that cool? But that's not all. Arlene. Distantly, I heard Fly's voice. That's probably enough. But I haven't told him about the cylinder. It doesn't swing out so as to empty out the spent shells. All you have to do is flip open the loading gate, push the ejection rod. Fly. Arlene was using one of his very special... Oh, Arlene, sorry. Arlene. Fly was using one of his very special tones of voice. Okay. I surrendered. Where was I? Well, we were checking out our little candy store, but we didn't have much time. So you hotwired the truck? Mulligan guessed. Hey, who's telling the story? The same good luck that provided us with UPS weapons shipment left the key in the ignition and enough gas in the tank to get us to the airport. Who knows what happened to the driver? His ID was still on the dashboard. Some poor bastard named Timon. Maybe he was zombified and went looking for work at the post office. Anyway, we hauled ass and made it to the airport in record time. Record time? Whatever. Fly jumped back in. Hey, Pop-Tart! Hey, welcome. We only got one more shift, right? I'm counting the days. Or maybe two more? I think one more. Let's see here. Fly jumped back in. Where I would have pedaled Jill on her posterior... Wait, what? Where I would have pedaled Jill on her posterior, except that Arlene thought that might be misunderstood. Made it to the airport in record time. Okay, because Jill waited. Right, okay. Where I would have pedaled Jill on her posterior, except that Arlene thought that might be misunderstood. Gross. Like that was the concern, not the fact that he was going to physically hit a child? Great. Fly's a real winner. Besides, I could only be so angry with somebody who probably saved our lives. The force field was still down. The force field was still down, I continued. I was surprised. Enough time had passed for them to put it up again, but we were not fighting the greatest brains in the universe. Ken seemed relieved that half his work was done. Half? Asked my burly audience. Sure, Ken had been busy while he waited for us to show up. He tapped into the system with an idea that turned out to be very helpful. So what was Jill doing all this time? He asked. We took off. She didn't want to wait any longer, especially now that we could see imps and zombies piling into other planes so they could pursue us. Jesus, said Mulligan. According to what you told me before, Jill had done okay, but it takes a lot more than not cracking up a plane to survive a dogfight. Jill was thinking along those lines herself. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, that is her. I said. Jeez. I tried to cheer her up by reminding her of the skill levels of the typical imp and zombie. As it turned out, it didn't matter. No sooner was Jill out past the shore that Ken solved the problem he had been working on. He raised the force field just in time to swat the enemy planes out of the air like flies. Hey, said my best buddy. As a bonus, Ken hosed the password file so they wouldn't be able to lower the field and follow us. We realized we could actually relax for a while. Good practice for our time with you, George. By the way, Ken is a cyber mummy. Just in case y'all forgot. That's Ken. And Jill, the 14-year-old Mormon hacker, plugged him into the internet so that he could fight the demons in the digital realm. That's all real. That's what we're dealing with. He was a cyber mummy on a plane. Now that part, I believe, said the master gun. Oh, geez, and that's it. That's chapter 4. God damn. Lame. Okay. Did you write this? I could have. All right, that's the chapter. That was a little unfulfilling. But at least we have the full story, I guess, of how they escaped. Jeez. I don't want to hear any more about paddling posteriors. That one was too short. I'm going to read another one. I'm going to go again. The next chapter is pretty short, too, so I'm just going to just count that as a stream bonus. Yeah, no boobs either. She's still topless. Arlene's been topless this whole time. Giving the author plenty... Or, excuse me, Fly. Please. There's no self-insertion going on here. Giving the author plenty of time to ogle her and her bouncing boobs. Yes, OJ dude, yes. Arlene is very, truly topless. She punched Fly so hard her boobs jiggled, and the book described it. He said that they jiggled nicely. Nicely. Pink Jasmine's, thanks for the sub. Alright. Chapter 5. Outstanding mission, was Mulligan's verdict. You two are a credit to the Corps. Okay, I am Fly now. You've done all right yourself. I returned the compliment. Thanks, Fly, he said. Meanwhile, Arlene took a break from our company and from the extended trip down memory lane. She ran into the surf. I shielded my eyes against the glaring sun to watch her precise movements. Nice to see her using her physical skills for fun instead of taking down demons. The ocean beckoned me, too. Mulligan gave it a pass. Alright, he's looking at Arlene again. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. As I watched Arlene's trim body darting in and out of the waves like a sleek dolphin, I marveled for the 100th time that we were alive and together in a setting untouched by doom. After wading in a literal ocean of alien blood, I felt clean again in the cool ocean water. I discovered scratches and cuts and abrasions I didn't even know as I had the saltwater caressed my body. Swimming stretched muscles that weren't often used in battle. I felt truly alive. Arlene was as playful as a kid as she waved and challenged me to catch up with her. I obliged. For the upper body strength and a longer reach to help me in my hour of need. Or time for my upper body strength and a longer reach to help me in my hour of need. I poured it on and moved so swiftly that my hand found her smooth ankle before she could get away. Gotcha. Gotcha. My buddy, my fellow warrior, who was as good a man as any other Marine, had delicate little feet. I did not think this was going to go to feet. As good a man as any other Marine had cute little feets. Little piggies. Not like those of any other PFC of my acquaintance. The Admiral could have slapped together a World War II poster with Arlene's picture and caption, "This is what you're fighting for." We were soldiers in what might prove to be the last battle of the human race. But I liked a human face to remind me why I fought. Just her feet. This is what you're fighting for. Dude saluting pictures of Arlene's feet. We splashed each other and played so hard that I swallowed a mouthful from Davy Jones's locker. I'm absolutely using that in the future. Dare ye drink from Davy Jones's cup? Pinky, yeah. And I kept finding excuses to touch the smooth skin of my buddy. There had been a subtle change between us after Albert came into her life, though. I like it when my little fingers get to rub all over that smooth little dolphin body. Poking and rubbing and scratching. Ugh. God. Okay, he's gonna process this now. I wasn't gonna try to come between them. Just as I had steered clear of Arlene and Dodd until her boyfriend unwillingly joined the zombie corps. Beast all you can be. Nice. She and Albert both deserved whatever chance for happiness they could grab. We were Marines. We didn't volunteer for the crazy suicide missions. We were assigned to them as a matter of course. This vacation wasn't going to last. It could be worse, I guess. Looking towards the beach, I saw that Mulligan had finished his beer and returned to HQ. He wasn't the type to sunbathe on purpose. "What time is it?" asked Arlene, pausing only long enough to spit salt water in my direction. I made a big deal of lifting my left arm to show off my brand new plastalloy wristwatch. Space-proof and waterproof. I checked the time. "According to the best naval time, it's late afternoon." "Tea time." "Just about," I answered. "You know, it was about this time last week when they took the bandages off Albert's eyes." "He beat them," she said, suddenly very serious, and I was with her all the way. No damned imp with a lucky fireball had succeeded in blinding our big Mormon buddy. I was still pissed that Bill Rich had been killed in similar circumstances on Deimos. Well, the bastards didn't have any of Albert. The LA mission had turned out to be a mortality-free operation. Hell, we'd even rescued Ken Estes when the man could do nothing to help himself. The docs had him sitting up in bed, wearing pajamas instead of mummy wrappings, and he could talk again, a bona fide miracle. Then it was Albert's turn. Also, the cyber mummy is not non-mummied? He's just Ken now? Okay. "Lie," said Arlene, up close all of a sudden. "Yeah." "You're a great guy," she said, and kissed me on the cheek. She could always surprise me. "What brought that on?" I asked. "You care about Albert," she said softly. "You care about Jill and Ken, too." I shook my head. "Don't think that way," I told her. "You can't relax into..." She put her hand over my mouth. It was her turn again. "You're not the only Marine who can make command decisions. Soon the only people left in the world will have the will to sacrifice their loved ones if that's what it takes to defeat the invaders. Meanwhile, we can care for one another." "You're describing civilians," I said coldly. She started swimming back for the shore, but then she turned back, treading water, and completed my education. "There are no civilians any longer, Fly. Every survivor is a soldier in this war." I gave her that point. After all, she hadn't said everyone was a Marine. I could accept the idea that all terrestrial life forms had volunteered for grunt duty on the front line. The whole planet was the front line. Floating on my back for a moment, I let Arlene's words wash over me. The heat of the sun and the cool of the water threatened me with sleep. We hadn't had very much of that in the past month. I'd always been naturally buoyant. I float real good. I'm a good floater. A nerd. I'd always been naturally buoyant. But I wasn't going to risk taking a doze in the ocean. It would be funny if a guy who had survived spider mines and steam demons drowned a short distance from his best buddy. I swam to shore where Arlene was waiting for me, pointing to something behind me. I looked around and for a moment thought she was referring to the cloud the Admiral had noticed earlier, but it had vanished. She was interested in the black fin 100 yards away from us. "There's someone for your terrestrial army," I said. At the time, I thought it was a shark. Do you think we'll ever get Jill to eat seafood?" he asked. "I doubt it. Speaking of Jill, let's check up on her." Okay, I think I'm clicking into Jill's perspective now, which sucks. I hate reading this author. Right, Jill? Okay. "I'm lonely. I'm bored. I thought when we got to Hawaii I'd find some kids my own age. Everyone here is either an adult or a little kid. Some of them don't even call me Jill. They call me the teenager." Jill's a minor? Yes, she is. She's 14, I think? Yeah. At first, they made a big fuss. The Admiral gave me a medal. They were short on the real thing, so we used some old golf ribbon he'd won years ago. But it meant a lot to him, so I was polite. I was uncomfortable at the way everyone looked at me, but it was still kind of nice. The pisser was, no one would get off my age after that. Except for Dr. Forrest Ackerman. He was probably crazy, but he was nice to me. "You're a genius," he kept repeating. "I prefer the company of geniuses." He looked like Vincent Price from an old horror movie, complete with a neat little mustache. Okay, I'm gonna do a bad Vincent Price for him then. Let's see here. "You're a genius," he kept repeating. "I prefer the company of geniuses." That's not very good, but it's a good voice unto itself, so I'll just work with that. Who's that old actor? The sniveling guy with the giant eyes? It's kind of more that. Not too bad, you think? It'll do. I always think about what Hank Azaria said about all the voices he does for Simpsons. He's just like, yeah, I just start with bad celebrity impersonations and go from there. I'm like, yeah, that's not bad. There's such a cool resonance, but also a kind of nasalness to Vincent Price's voice. I don't know that I can emulate that, but I'll get close. If they have more dialogue, who knows? Yeah, it looked like Vincent Price. I might not have remembered that movie. Wait, which movie? I might not have remembered that movie, except that the doctor considered himself a monster expert. Let the others call him the enemy, he said, winking. They're more comfortable with the old language. The enemy refers to something human. We might face principalities and powers. We're monster fighters. I had no idea what he meant by principalities and powers, but at least he didn't talk down to me. There were a dozen computer jobs I could have taken now that I was a big hero, but I chose to work with Ackerman. For one thing, he'd asked me to. His research was interesting, and there was a lot I could do for him. I didn't mind his interest in me, especially if I was going to be an assistant, but I didn't like the way he kept asking about the others. Albert, Fly, and Arlene had lots of military stuff to keep them busy. Ken was recovering in the hospital. Whenever we talked, he tired out quickly. Yeah. There's every indication that Ken is also a genius, Ackerman said, smiling. At least he's unwrapped. What do you mean? I was, making a joke. He looked like a mummy when we rescued him from the train. When I looked at him now, I think of a mummy. Yes. God damn it. I also don't think I got Jill's voice right. She's more of an innocent kind of like doughy-eyed character than like a eye-rolly hacker teen. That's what I thought they were gonna do with her, is make her like really, really moody and nihilistic, but she's much more like plucky. She's way more like pigtails. So maybe I need to pivot that. Marazard, thanks for the sub. Let's see. Yes, he replied. You and Ken were worth the sacrifices the others made. They were very brave. Brave. Yeah, I tried to fry too much, but I don't know that I can fry in like a... I can't fry like Lady Fry. I'd have to experiment with it. Normal specimens, he said to himself. People who talk to themselves are overheard sometimes. What do you mean? I asked. He looked up from his clipboard and blinked at me through his heavy, black-rimmed glasses. Sorry, I'm spending too much time in the lab. I only meant that if the human race is going to survive, we must harvest all of our geniuses. I've been called a genius ever since I was a kid. Sometimes I got tired of it. What's a genius? I asked. He had a quick answer. Anyone who can think better than his neighbor. There must be a lot of geniuses then. He smiled. Don't be a smart aleck or I won't show you my collection. I'd always found it so hard to shut up. How do you know who's smart? He placed a fatherly hand on my shoulder. I didn't hold that against him. He had no way of knowing I wasn't looking for a dad. Jill, the military keeps records. Sometimes I think it's all they're really good at doing. If your military friends had unusually high IQs, or other indications of special mental attributes, we'd know. I thought a lot of records were lost during the invasion. He laughed. Didn't sound as if he was enjoying the joke. You should be a lawyer. No thanks. This base had thorough documents on military personnel of all the services before Doomday. Doomday? That's what we're calling the first day of the invasion. By the way, I noticed you were trying to change the subject. You are a genius, Jill. You might find it interesting that your last name, Lovelace, is the same as that of Augusta Ada King Lovelace, an English mathematician who has been called the world's first computer programmer. Yeah, okay, Peter Lorre was what I was... yeah, it's a little more Peter Lorre. But yeah, so wait, she's a descendant? Never mind. It's amazing how much trivia Ackerman carried in his head. While we were talking, I followed him into the largest laboratory I'd ever seen. An underground warehouse that they'd allowed Dr. Ackerman to turn into his private world. Clearance was a cinch. He ran the lab. His voice is totally Liam O'Brien now? Wait, the doctor? Or is that what I'm doing? I don't think I have Liam O'Brien's pipes. Not by a... I might be able to explore and develop them, but I can't give like... It sounds like his whole chest is vibrating when he does VO. I'd have to really experiment with that. Alright, let's see here. Where was I? He ran the lab. Okay. I wanted to get him off the subject of my friends. The way he talked about them made me uncomfortable. They'd been sort of ignoring me lately. At least that's how it felt. I didn't want to be disloyal to them when I was already pissed off. I wasn't a rat. Besides, maybe they were purposefully giving me a time to be alone. Arlene had said I could really be a pill when I was in one of my moods. Jesus. Caged Money! Thanks for gifting 5 subs. It's closer and closer to more chapters. Love it. Love it. Well, why shouldn't I be? Albert and Arlene had a thing for each other. When they were like that, they didn't want anyone else around, not even Fly. But lately Arlene was spending more time with Fly. They had this really gross brother-sister kind of thing going. When I first met them, I thought there might be something else between them. I quickly learned that was no way. All the other characters have to keep reinforcing. Fly is totally cool with it. Doesn't care. Not attracted to her at all. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Of course, I thought that might open the door for me to sort of find out if Fly would see me as anything other than a dumb kid or computer geek. Fucking gross. Fucking gross. Gross. Gross, 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 gross. Gross, 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 gross. God. It already went there a little bit. So I'm not as disgusted by that. That went nowhere fast. Good. No one can make me feel like a kid quicker than Fly Taggart. I don't care that civilization has almost collapsed. He told me... Oh, no, wait, is this Fly? Fuck. Alright. Alright. That was usually where they drew the line, but now they're pushing the line even further because this book is disgusting. I'm warning you. This is gross. I don't sanction what I'm about to read in the slightest. Okay. This is a quote from Fly in the past. Why does Fly... What if Fly also sounds like Vincent Price? Just everyone in this book's now Vincent... My shitty Vincent Price knockoff? Okay. Alright. Fuck me. Alright. I don't care that civilization has almost collapsed. He told me one time when I let him see me dressing or undressing, I forget which. I have my own rules, he said. My own personal code of conduct. A kid your age shouldn't even be thinking about such things. Now cut it out! It's a good thing Fly is so moral. Such an upstanding Marine. It's a good thing. Nothing better than an adult man writing like a sexually precocious 14-year-old woman. Absolutely the best. Nothing wrong with that. Nope. Nope, no sir. Anyway. He said a lot more, but I tuned him out. Luckily for him that his personal code was exactly the same as that of other adults. He called it the Your Actions Principle, or the YA rule for short. Fly was just like all the other adults I'd known, except that he was a better shot. A full-grown man is telling me what I shouldn't be thinking about. Typical. At least Dr. Ackerman didn't do that to me. But I sure didn't want him to pump me about my Marine friends. Wording. Wording. Yeah, the YA principle. Like young adult. Yeah. Don't fuck young adults is his principle, which I guess is a good thing. It's like, my YA principal is causing a lot of questions that are answered by my YA principal. I don't understand why this is causing such confusion. I explicitly said I don't do it. Okay. I didn't want to tell him that I think Fly would rather fire a plasma rifle than make love to anyone. My opinion's none of Ackerman's business. My stomach feels weird. I didn't want the doc to know that I'd rather be a scientist than a Marine. That's probably no big secret. I don't want to ever, ever, ever be a Marine. I hate the haircuts. End of the chapter. End of the chapter. Gross. 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 Gross, gross, gross. Super gross. It was fun gross when he was just describing Jill's nicely bouncing boobs. Sorry, no, that's extra gross. No, Arlene. We haven't gotten there yet, thank God. The worst that happened is in the last book, Fly looked at her and was like, "You'll be a woman soon." Kind of fucking bullshit, which is gross in its own right. But yeah, that was bad, huh? Oh well, it's a live stream. Hey, this is what subathons are all about. Okay, chapter's complete. Thank you all very much. Or maybe not thank you for subbing. Appreciate it for getting me to read that. Thank you again for the subs. We'll let the sub machine count those up. Thank you again for extending the stream. That's another thing that I really appreciate because I'm having such a good time with Metal Gear. I understand running through all the codec stuff is not the most thrilling watch, but it's I really like it, so I appreciate anyone's patience with that. And I'm going to have to ask your patience for this, chapter 6. This is still Jill and Dr. Ackerman, and as the book has told me, Dr. Ackerman is my shitty Vincent Price, so... You'll find this fascinating, Jill... No, that's not right. You'll find this fascinating, Jill... that's not right either. Gotta get that voice back. You'll find this fascinating, Jill. Dr. Ackerman promised as he led me to a massive table covered by a gigantic plastic sheet. But the only thing missing was an electrical machine buzzing and zapping from one of the old movies. There are too many of them to be defeated by firepower. He sounded like the president of the Council of 12 from the Mormon compound. Oh, damn it. But that's shitty Ronald Reagan. We got a real problem here. The book's telling me different things. I'll just continue. I'll just continue on. But he didn't go on to talk about the power of prayer. After what your friends told us, we must face the reality of an unlimited number of these creatures. The biovats witnessed by Taggart and Sanders. That was before I met them. Yes, we were briefed, you know. They saw those vats in space, on Deimos to be exact. The aliens can replace their creatures so indefinitely, and they keep improving their models, so... Ackerman had a great sense of the theatrical, playing for an audience that was only me. Reminding me of a stage magician, he reached out with both hands and yanked the big sheet off the thing on the table. I really should have been a little more theatric. Pablo, thank you for the 69 bits. Nice. Sherlo's 5150, thank you for the resub. You guys did it! Hype Train, level 5. Thank you very much. Is he going to talk about breeding or some shit? Surely not. Of course not. What? No. 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 Okay. Large pieces of steam demon were spread out on a heavy slab. The table had to be very strong to support the weight. It's not rotting? I said, blurting out the first words that came into my head. They don't decay naturally. The zombies decompose, of course, because of their original human tissue. He slipped a pair of surgical gloves on and prodded at the red side of the big chest lying there all by itself. Looked like the world's biggest piece of partially chewed bubblegum. There's no smell, I volunteered. No odor, right, not with a cyber demon. A what? I forgot, you call them something else, don't you? Steam demons.
Yes, well, we're standardizing the terminology for official government science. Now, take the cacodemons, for instance.
Oh! Okay, they're officially called cacodemons now. Great.
A what? You call them pumpkins. I confess I like that name myself, what with the Halloween associations. But it won't do for an official name.
You don't have any Wait, do you have any cacodemons here? He shook his head.
They dissolve shortly after their tissues are disrupted. When we try to secure samples for analysis, we're left with only a test tube of liquid and powder. So tell me, Jill, what do you make of the the steam demon?
The name Cyber Demon makes sense, I agreed. I didn't tell him what I thought of cacodemon. A mechanical part sticking to the body so deep.
They're not attachments,
he corrected.
Look!
He pointed at the portion of the arm that began in the flesh and ended in the metal of the rocket launcher.
Neither the arm nor the launcher is complete, but the cross-section shows the point of connection between the arm and the weapon. You see it, don't you, Jill? You don't need a microscope.
The only other time I'd been this close to a piece of monster was when the foot of a spider mind almost crushed me on the train when we rescued Ken, the cyber mummy. Ken the cyber mummy. I wondered what Ackerman called the spider minds. Anyway, seeing a cross-section of a demon was a new experience.
I don't believe it,
I admitted.
Seeing is believing.
The red shaded into silver gray. There was no dividing line. The rocket launcher grew out of the flesh.
That's one for Ripley,
he said.
Huh? Oh, a little before your time. It means it's hard to believe, but the evidence is right before you. When I first started studying these creatures, I was most puzzled about their weapons. Think about it. The imps fire a weapon that's purely organic in nature.
We call them imps, too. Well, sometimes spinies.
Uh-huh. Your pumpkins do the same with their balls of concentrated acid and combustible gas. Why, then, do these larger creatures use weapons similar to the artillery used by humans?
I'd never thought about that. If someone is trying to stab me with a switchblade, I don't wonder how he got it. It was Dr. Ackerman's job to wonder.
All these military weapons seemed inappropriate, he went on. If they internally create bolts of force and can project them, why develop appendages that require external ammunition?
I get it, I said, excited. It's like if you're Godzilla, what do you need with a gun?
Perfect, Jill. You really are a smart kid.
I didn't want compliments. I wanted to keep the discussion moving. Are you sure they don't get their bullets and rockets from somewhere else? Maybe they grow them, too. Ackerman stopped what he was doing, bringing up a computer display, showing the monster's autopsy report, and took his glasses off. He pointed at me with them.
Right there. You prove yourself worth more than the people I've been working with. You can help me, interface with Ken, too. His doctor says that it will be a while before he gets back to normal, but he's been so close to the problem that he understands aspects of their biotechnology that no one else comprehends.
I nodded. Now I remember. Ken told us how the rockets and guns and stuff were probably first stolen from subject races. So if the gun is a separate thing, then it's not grown by a demon. Ackerman finished my thought.
But if it's attached, then it's grown somehow. The original version of the weapon must have been stolen first. Then they modified it into their biotech.
He turned his back to me again, and I noticed little red and yellow stains all over it. I didn't want to know what they were. Now he was excited as he said, it's probably like ketchup and mustard, right? Now he was excited as he said,
what we need is a living specimen of one of the big ones.
He grinned. Maybe he was a really mad scientist. I had to ask the obvious question.
Would you be able to control it? We already handled the living zombies we have here. That sounds funny, doesn't it? Living zombies? You have live ones? I nearly freaked out when he said that. Being in combat had turned me into a killer of the undead. Sure, but they're easy enough to control. They don't have superhuman strength. You know that from fighting them.
Have you fought them?
Well, no, but I've studied them. I'm trying to them. I've studied them.
Trust me on this, Doctor. They're dangerous.
But manageable, that's all I'm saying. If we had a live cyber demon, then we'd have a problem of containment. The same as if our man-cubus was living. I know you call them fatties.
You have a whole fatty?
Fortunately, it's dead. Unlike the specimen here, he seems to be slowly decaying.
Old Bones, thanks for the sub. Yeah, we're doing lore time. Reading the third novel for Doom. Right now, a 14-year-old hacker is talking to a Vincent Pricey old scientist about the nature of the demons, because they autopsied one. Good times. It hasn't been creepy yet. Shocking. Okay, so they have a cyber demon or a fatty that's not decaying. I laughed. They smell so bad alive, I don't see how they could get any worse. The stench reminds me of rotting fish, sour grapes, and an old locker room sweat. Come on, I'll show you. He didn't need to take my arm, but I let him. He was like a friendly uncle who wanted to show off his chamber of horrors. We went past sections of flying skulls laid out like bikers' helmets. I always wanted a motorcycle. What do you call the Clydes? Clydes? We don't, he answered quickly. We think your friends were wrong to think they might be the product of genetic engineering. They're probably the human traders who were given some kind of treatment to make them tractable. The fatty was behind glass and made me think of a gigantic meatloaf that had been left out in the sun. The metal guns it used for arms had been removed and stacked up next to the monster like giant flashlights. It looked sort of pathetic without them. You can't smell it from here, but if you want to step into the room... No thanks. I turned him down, unsure if he was kidding me. Let's see the zombies. I wish I hadn't asked. He led me to the end of the warehouse where I finally saw some other people in white lab coats. For a moment, it had seemed as if the whole place belonged to Ackerman and his monsters. We went out into a corridor. I figured the zombies had been given a special place of their own. Like I said, what's great about scientists is the way they refuse to talk down to kids. Ackerman started a lecture, and it was fine with me. The most interesting part about studying zombies is the residual speech pattern. We have recorded many hours of zombie dialogue. Some of them fixate on the invasion, speaking cryptically about gates and greater forces that lie behind them. Others pick up a pattern for their own lives, repeating phrases that tell us something about them. A final test group doesn't speak at all. We are attempting to find out if they retain any capacity to reason after the transformation. No, I said as strongly as I could. The human part of them is dead. I understand how you must feel, he said. It's easier for all of us if we assume we're not killing anyone human on the other side of the gun barrel. I shook my head. You don't understand, I told him. I'll kill any scag who betrayed us. The traitors are still human. I wouldn't have any problem pulling the trigger on those creeps in the government who helped the demons. All right, calm down, he said in a completely different tone of voice. I was really talking about myself just then. It's easier for me to work on these, zombies if I think there's no humanity left. Arlene keeps saying I can be a real pill, so I decided to be that way on purpose. I asked, What difference does that make to you, Doctor, if they weren't if they weren't geniuses when they were alive? Okay. Difference doesn't make to you, Doctor, if they weren't geniuses when they were alive. He laughed instead of getting mad. Ha ha ha, you are smart, Jill.
I need to watch my step around you. I hope we'll enjoy working together. We can start now. What's your theory of why a few of the big monsters seem to be able to reason?
You mean like the spider minds? I didn't need to tell him what that word meant. I don't know who's talking. I think this is the doctor? The spider minds. Apparently all of them. Then there was... Yeah, this must be the doctor. Then there was the loquacious imp whom Corporal Taggart reported encountering on Phobos. White Rabbit! Gifting 20 more subs. Oh, you put us double over. Hold on. Hold on a minute. Wait, it's not on this scene. Oh, no. Remind me to hit the button when I go back to gameplay. But White Rabbit, thank you very much. I forgot to wrap that around. Okay, so we're going to get another chapter after this. Thank you very much, White Rabbit. Thank you for unlocking more Doom lore. It's very important. This means a lot to me. This Doom lore. Let's see here. He was on one of my favorite subjects. We were wondering about the smart ones when we were doing the LA mission. What were your conclusions? I suddenly noticed how long we'd been walking. How much farther before we reached the zombies? Not long. Just don't ask if we're there yet. It'll make me think of you as a kid again. Is there a restroom I could use? Just a few feet beyond the zombie pen. He sounded impatient. Oh, what did all of you conclude? Whenever a normal stupid one talks, there must be a smarter one somewhere, sending the words. Like broadcasting a radio signal. We've been working along the same lines. Do you think the spider minds do their own thinking? Search me. They could be on the receiving end as well. So tell me about your zombies. I was truly interested. We'd walked a good distance and still no sight of the corpse creeps. Well, we have a total of 13. We've run identity checks. You know how impossible it is to destroy your information today. Yeah, this guy's pretty sus. Where are they walking? I just don't. I wanna believe it's not. I wanna believe it's not going somewhere. Yeah, the monsters can't rip a big hole in the net, even with their fat asses. They've slowed us down, but they can't stop us cold. We'll stop them cold. Atta girl. Anyway, one of the zombies was once an editor named Anders Monson. He repeats phrases from his profession. At least that's what we think he's doing. One of the men is Michelle Delude, a blonde. Okay, weird thing. Why didn't he say what color the dude's hair was? She keeps repeating how she must get to Las Vegas in time for her wedding. Mark Stevens ran a bookstore. Butler Schaefer was a law professor. Tina Karros was a paralegal. She's the brunette. Both the ladies were very attractive in life. Shame to see them monsterized. The other 8 were seamen, stationed right here in Hawaii. One was a huge man his friends called Big Lee. Don't remember the names of the others. Okay, creep. Creep. Getting there. Little bits and pieces, we're getting there. Ackerman could have been a teacher. He made me want to meet his special class of dead people. I was looking forward to it until the door marked maximum security swung open and a large shape filled the doorway, swinging a meat cleaver with which it hacked off Dr. Ackerman's head. No one saw that coming. That's the end of the chapter. Luckily, the next one's been unlocked already. Dr. Ackerman just got his shit chopped off. Did I add the hour last time? It's another hour, right? It should be 2 more hours being added? Oh, that was VIP or ban. Hold on, let me get to the bottom of this first. I don't think I ever... Yeah, I need to add 2 hours. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, because I always do the time and like rolling the counter back at the same time, so I wouldn't have done one or the other. Okay, all right. VIP or ban, let's do it. Ooh, that's the wrong button. Hold on. There it is. It's not on this scene. Damn. Okay, hold on a second. I'm gonna have to go back to the game in a second. Never expected anyone to redeem a VIP or ban in lore time. Okay. 1 second. All right, let's go over here. This button. Rannick with more gifts. Thank you very much. Uh-oh. Ah, shit. I think this counts. Yeah, this is the same thing. Ooh. 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 Ah. Sorry, Reverend Mooch. Rigged. It's literally rigged. It's no joke, big time rigged. Sorry. Here, Reverend Mooch, you've watched a whole lot. I appreciate that. You've watched the stream so much to get that many channel points, because that's a lot. It's 250,000, I think. You're king viewer, but you're also banned. Gotta ban you right now. Thank you, you're banned. I'm in pain. Thank you, you're banned. Also, while I'm here, gotta make up for it, right? Okay. Get back to the but we lost Dr. Ackerman. Datnade, thanks for gifting another sub. We're crawling on towards the next chapter already. No, get the fuck out. Thanks for watching. I love you, but you're banned. Chapter 7. I'll never admit this to Arlene, but for the first time, I doubt my faith. Okay, I think we're playing as Albert. A Dew Pope, thanks for the prime. This will be fun. I get to hear... Wait. I don't want to be Albert the Agnostic. Yeah. It's funny because I think the author's starting to understand how confusing and bad switching perspectives is. So there's always like the first or second sentence. There's a not very elegant way of telling you who you are. But it's still like 2 or 3 sentences in. That's why Game of Thrones just told you who you were and then started writing. You can just do that. But whatever. I don't want to be Albert the Agnostic. I'll have to write this out of my system. When I'm finished, I'll destroy it and write her a real letter. To take my impure thoughts about women, pulverize them so my lord will be safe. It might seem stupid to write someone I could speak to in person, but when I look into her green eyes, I become tongue-tied. The way she arches her right eyebrow and smiles with a smile as hot as her flaming red hair. I just can't talk to her. She offers me herself, and all I can do is tell her about my religion. She was the first sight I beheld after the operation. They did what they could for my face, but I didn't need to look in a mirror to realize I had permanent scars. My face still burns. It'll burn forever from the new valleys and ridges etched into my forehead and cheeks and chin. I suppose there's consolation in not being as ugly as an imp. Of course, I'll have a head start if I'm ever turned into a zombie. I know it's wrong to worry about my appearance when I could have been blind for the rest of my life. May God forgive my vanity. Arlene won't let me be sorry for myself. She bent over my hospital bed smiling like an angel and kissed up and down the tortured flesh of my disfigured face. You'll always be my Albert, she whispered so that only I could hear. We've shared experiences few mortals will ever know. We've faced down the wrath of a spider mind. We've tasted the brimstone of a fire eater. I can't figure out why the scientists here call those things archviles. Together we've spilled the slimy guts of pumpkins and princes of hell. I was willing to wade through a sea of blood with this woman, but when she turned her face to me and offered me her high cheekbones to touch and full mouth to kiss, I pulled away. She must think I'm a fool. A woman who has proved herself in the world of men. She is not squeamish about the human body. Women tend to be more matter-of-fact about the body anyway. Oh, this is great. We're gonna get to hear the Doom novels tell me about women. Females. Oh, Loof? Yeah, so the odds are now actually 80-20. I've skewed them a little more. And I think it was actually a little bit off. I think it was actually 60-40 before because I didn't really do the math right. It started at 1, not at 0. Anyway, oh god. Okay, women. Oh my god. Yeah. Women tend to be more matter-of-fact about the body anyway. They already live in the sea of blood, so it must seem very strange to watch men deliberately embark on that crimson ocean. Does a foxhole really compare to childbirth? I was brought up to believe that the highest destiny of a woman is to bring children into the world. The church reinforced these attitudes. I can respect a woman who is a fighter, but I can't shake the idea she's shirking her responsibility as a woman. It's like if she dies on a battlefield, she gets off easy. Oh wait, no. There's an ad. Okay, hold on. We have to wait the ad out. Gotta wait the ad out and roll it back. No one gets saved from this. No. Nope, sorry. There is no rest on this planet. If we have to go through this, everybody does. I can't wait to hear what ads are playing right now, too. Can I have an ad, please? No. Absolutely not. Operation Rude Boy. Thanks for gifting 5 subs. Appreciate that. Got that, pushing that meter back up again. Appreciate it. Okay, 15 seconds left on the ads. Yeah. Crimson Ocean, I believe, is where the ads left off. Great. All right, welcome back, everybody. Don't worry. Don't worry. We didn't skip anything. We'll roll it back here because it's only going to get more more intellectually cultured. Jesus Christ. All right, women tend to be more matter-of-fact about the body anyway. I got a burp. It's messing my stomach up. Okay. They already live in the sea of blood, so it must seem very strange to them to watch men deliberately embark upon that crimson ocean. Aussie Maniac, thanks for the sub. Does a foxhole really compare to childbirth? I was brought up to believe that the highest destiny of a woman is to bring children into the world. The church reinforced these attitudes. I can respect a woman who is a fighter, but I can't shake the idea she's shirking her responsibility as a woman. It's like if she dies on a battlefield, she gets off easy. If she's an officer, she exercises a trivial kind of authority compared to what God intends for her to do with her children. So here comes Arlene Sanders with her high and tight, tossing back her head as if she had long hair down to her waist, showing off her long neck and firm jaw, and shouldering her piece with as much authority as any man. Yeah, I'll pretend it's the day after Halloween and help her blow away pumpkins, but I won't touch her with my naked hand. I'm just gonna have to put on like latex gloves. My woman handling gloves. My purity gloves. Jesus Christ, this fucking guy. Dudette, that's the perfect Pepe for this situation. Intellectually, I don't doubt the Book of Mormon. History shows that a life of marriage and children is intended for men and women on this earth. When we move away from that, we become miserable. When we do our duty, we know a happiness of which no hedonist can ever dream. I guess my problem is that I thought I'd been tempted before. But the women who offered themselves to me for quick and easy sex were not women I respected. They'd never stood up to devils from the depths of space. They'd never encountered the now or never choice of giving up your life for a buddy and surviving only because he'd do the same for you. I met plenty of women who were into rock, but PFC Arlene Sanders was the first who could really rock and roll. Babe, you rock. No, wait. You rock and roll. Okay. She's different. She's just as cool as a dude, but she's got tits, man. I don't know what to do. She's got like arms and stuff. It makes me feel weird. Oh God, come on. Fucking God. Turning down her offer hurts so much because if a buddy asked for anything else, I'd come through without giving it a second thought. Hey, bro. Just need you to crank my shit. I'm all tossed up, bro. Need someone to tug me off. Can you do it? How can she treat the act of love so casually? I know lots of men who jump at the chance offered by Arlene, but she probably wouldn't be interested in them. My usual lousy luck. She's attracted to me because she knows I'll say no. Even when I was a jock back in high school, there were cheerleaders after me. Being big and muscular has its advantages. The smart guys thought I was stupid and left me alone. That was probably an advantage also. I want a family. I want a loving wife who will give me children. It's that simple, but I can't make the words come out. Words are fragile tools. When you try to turn them into weapons, they often break. I can't write the letter to Arlene today. I don't have the words. I pray that I'll find the words while we're still together. In a world of real demons, there isn't any time to waste. Are we out of music? Yeah. This? Yeah. In a world of demons, there isn't any time to waste, nor is this a good time to question my faith just because I suddenly discover I cannot govern my passions. I might even have a future in which to raise a family. Once, when I was reading a book in the Mormon library, I came across a line that stayed with me. I don't remember the author, but he said, "Happy families are all alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way." That's horse shit. Man, fuck that. This is just like the smug and totally wrong assumption that, like, the one image of living is the only right way. What works for me must work for everyone. God, I hate that stuff. That's Tolstoy? For real? In the context of a novel, fine, but trying to apply that to the real world? God, that is some bullshit. I hate that stuff. How about every happy family is also happy in its own unique way? God. Chaser Boy, thanks for the sub and the 2 years. Thank you very much. I take that to mean that happiness grows out of love. Love is based on your actions. So is faith. How do I tell Arlene that I want all or nothing, especially when she's already offered me more than I deserve? And how can we make a decision for the future in a world like this? My hell on earth is a world where Arlene is right and I'm wrong. Do we even have a right to try to plan for the future? If we were the last two people in a universe of monsters, there would be a certain legitimacy in trying to make a life together. In however brief a span was allotted to us. But our lives are not our own. There is the Corps. 1, 2, 3, 4. She loves the Marine Corps. He loves it more than I do. So does Fly. There was that link between them. We are under orders more severe than any monastery could impose. Perversely, I have taken an oath of celibacy that she has not taken. Arlene Sanders is a worldly woman, whether on this planet or not. Stupid, sexy Arlene. But I am honest enough to admit that I have no intention of changing. If it were proven to me tomorrow that the Mormon faith is false, I would not become a moral relativist. I would not treat human relations as casual affairs. I take people too seriously for that. I respect her too much to dick her down. It sounds like that's what he's saying. I'd still believe in my morality, even if no God provided supernatural guidance. God, what a prick. Even if I'm wrong, I'm not changing my mind, is what he's saying. That's when you're really Christian. That's when they've really got you. And your mind has been completely brainwormed. I pray one day that Arlene will understand how much faith I have in her. Suddenly I realize that I can't write her a letter. I have to tell her all this in person. Despite all my reservations, I must have the courage of my convictions. I'm gonna ask her to marry me. Nice. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Alright, we got a break. Chapter break, but not a new chapter. Arlene, look out. A little voice in the back of my head just wouldn't shut up about how stupid it was to go anywhere without being armed to the teeth. Arlene and I... Wait, am I fly? Arlene and I haven't felt safe enough to go unarmed since the first day of the Phobos invasion. I guess I'm fly now, yeah. We even kidded each other about going to the beach without either of us packing a piece. I wouldn't have minded seeing her with a nice Colt 45 strapped to her and leaving its mark on her nearly naked body. She's my buddy, but I still have an imagination. She's my buddy, but I still beat off thinking about her. That's just what buddies do. Just a buddy thing. Ugh. And of course he would get off to like a nearly naked woman with guns on her. Of course he would. Here we were in the stronghold of humanity. This was one place where we didn't have to feel like the black gang... What? Oh, here... Okay, let me make sure I get this right. Here we were in a stronghold of humanity. This was the one place where we didn't have to feel like the black gangbanger surrounded by white cops and what a police commissioner might refer to as a target-rich environment?
Against all the evil that hell can conjure, all the wickedness that mankind can produce.
This book really compared themselves to black gang members about to get brutalized by white cops, except the demons are the white cops in this scenario. Yeah, went all in on that one. Didn't give that a second thought. I mean, I'm kind of okay with the analogy, except for the, like, blatant comparison of a white dude to, like, a black guy getting brutalized by cops, but I'm kind of down with the white cops compared to demons aspect. That's alright. Ew! Okay. Target-rich environment. Sure. Here, we could let down our hair. A joke when you have a Marine haircut. And go naked, which has nothing to do with clothes and everything to do with being unarmed. Nothing threatened us on the beach, except maybe that lazy shark we'd noticed right before coming in. We didn't have any need of firepower when we went through the security check. We simply needed our big bath towels because the air conditioning was on full blast inside. It was still our day of R&R, and neither of us was in a rush to get back into uniform. I'd never enjoyed wearing civvies more in my life. We weren't expecting trouble as we went looking for Jill. Ackerman's monster lab was a lot closer than Albert, who'd gone to town, and Arlene figured her beau still needed time alone. It wasn't until we went into the biology research department that the old Marine training kicked in. Something just didn't feel right. Maybe it was not seeing more people than we did, but when I noticed the female lab technician from behind, I knew something was wrong. Her long black tresses were a tattered mass stained with splotches of green. She had a great figure, and something told me she'd never let her hair go like that. She's too hot to have messed up hair. An ass doesn't go with a haircut like that. The old Marine training, yeah. Her lab coat was wrinkled and disgustingly dirty, though I knew the Admiral ran a tight ship and wouldn't abide slovenliness. Arlene picked up the pace and started hoofing over to the next technician. As the woman started to turn, I couldn't believe that Arlene wouldn't notice the messy hair and dirty lab coat. My best buddy wasn't just a great warrior, she was female. No sooner did I shout, "Arlene, look out!" than I realized I didn't need to worry about her. She went into a role that made her a less promising target than I was. Marine, protect your own ass. Turning sideways, I flattened myself against the wall before the female zombie got off her first shot. Arlene made certain she didn't get another. Zombie reflexes suck. Even a woman in good physical condition would have trouble stopping Arlene coming up from the floor, right arm straight up like the Statue of Liberty, knocking the gun from the cold, leathery hand that was about to get off a second shot. The next few seconds proved to be the corollary to practice makes perfect. We'd both become a little rusty. There was no other explanation for Zombie Girl getting away before Arlene could slam her hard against the convenient back wall. providing plenty of time for one of us to retrieve the gun from the floor and pump lead into the leathery blue-gray face of our walking beauty. I'm pretty sure Arlene is still topless, by the way. I think. This zombie lass, moved quickly, though. Faster than any zombie I'd ever seen. She also shouted something very strange about having to get to court. Then she darted through a door to my left before Arlene could reach her from the rear, or I could approach her from the front. "These morons!" Arlene screamed. "What kind of security did they call this?" I was pissed too, but I had more sympathy for a genuine blunder than Arlene did. Watching that bastard Weems order the murder of the monks in Kafiristan had softened me toward mere incompetence. The science boys had to study everything they could get their hands on. I didn't expect there wouldn't be risks, but whatever had gone wrong, it was now a job for people like Arlene and me. Yeah, even if she isn't the author always intended for her to be, that's true. It's definitely canon for her to be topless all the time. Yeah, like a dolphin, a smooth dolphin with a great figure. Perfect figure. Perfectly proportioned, sexy, smooth dolphin with cute feet. Eh. But whatever gone wrong, it was now a job for people like Arlene and me. She had already picked up the piece from the floor, a .38 caliber revolver. I liked the idea of acquiring more artillery as quickly as possible. A scream from the other side of the door brought us back to immediate reality. Reconnoitering was a luxury, and going to the armory was a vacation from the job. We went through the door together, me coming in low and Arlene braced, pointing the gun ahead of us, a beacon of truth with its own special kind of flame. But she didn't light the fire right away. She was afraid of hitting the woman that the zombie in the lab coat was carving up like a Christmas turkey. The victim stared at us without seeing what was in front of her. The broken beaker in the zombie's hand occupied the woman's full attention. Zombie girl had already cut the victim around her breasts and arms. Weird. The angle made it impossible for us to alter the events of the next few seconds. That was all the time the zombie needed. She drew her makeshift knife in a slashing movement across the white throat of the victim. The throat didn't stay white very long. The lifeblood spurted out so fast that it covered the hand holding the broken glass, and it looked as if the zombie had spilled a bucket of red paint over itself. Damn. Arlene took a few lithe dancer's steps into the room and placed her gun right up against the zombie girl's head. This Walking Dead might be fast, but the jig was up. Arlene squeezed off a round, blood, brains, and gore splattered back over the victim, but the poor woman was past caring. She was twitching, but that didn't count. We couldn't save her. Too bad none of the scientists are around to observe that, I said, pointing. A piece of zombie brain continued to flop around on the floor with a life of its own. I'd noticed this phenomenon before. It seemed to apply only to the better rank of zombies, the ones with a shred of initiative left. She was a fast one, said Arlene, nodding at the woman we didn't save. If I were wearing my boots, I'd grind this to a pulp. She sneered at the blue-green brain matter that seemed to be trying to crawl away. She didn't step on it. Instead, she wasted ammo. I could relate. Quick as that, we were both back in killing mode. Then we heard another scream, one we both recognized right away. Jill. And that is the end of Chapter 7. Just incredible. Just incredible. Wow. Some real messed up shit in that chapter. It's just like individual sentences, though. It's not really getting into whole... Well, actually, no, wait. The whole Mormon shit was also heavily fucked up. I guess you could say that it's a decent character work, because there are people like that. When was this published? 1995, I'm pretty sure. Gross. Gross. All right. Looks like it's, 31 more subs to get the next chapter. So I appreciate any generosity you guys have to share. Otherwise, we'll get back to Metal Gear Rising and listening to a lot of codec conversations. But first, I have to use the restroom real quick. I'll be right back. What horrible thing gonna happen now? Yeah, I played Metal Gear Solid 4. Liked it. I actually want to play it again. I haven't played it since it came out. I beat it like the first night I got it, and I haven't touched it since. It was a hell of an experience, and I want to play it again because The more I reflect on it, just how absolutely bonkers Metal Gear Solid 4 was. Alright, Chapter 8. Again, opening with an unattributed quote, thanks. Now, not only do I not know who I am, I don't know who's talking. I know nothing. Just words in space. But I think I've got it. We gotta save her, Fly. Arlene had recognized our kid, too. We'd both started thinking about Jill that way, as our responsibility. We hadn't gone through all this crap just to let her die now. Come on, I shouted and headed towards the sound. When we returned to the corridor, another zombie was waiting for us, a male. This one was one of the talkative ones. He didn't babble about the gateways and the invasion. Instead, he kept repeating, "Write it over and resubmit." I didn't give him a chance to repeat his mantra. Arlene had our only gun, but I was angry at not having been in time to save the woman in the next room. Sometimes I like to get personal. I felt the skin crawl between my shoulders as I hit the blue-gray face with my right fist. Marines were not meant to touch this reeking leather that once was human skin, but I was too angry to care. See, this is the Doom guy I know and love. Raging out. The sound of the nose cracking did my soul a world of good. Unlike Arlene's prey, this one was slow. I could have moved a lot slower, but adrenaline surged through me as I did something I'd never done to any of these bozos. I gave it the old 1-2 with straight fists. No karate. No fancy sidekicks, no special training. I just pummeled that damned face in a sincere effort to send it straight back to hell, or it belonged. I do like that they were very clear it was a male zombie, so alright. Thanks for that, book. Thanks for not letting me wonder. Why? Arlene was right behind me. Be with you in a second, I said. What about Jill? Shit. How could I have been sidetracked so easily? There are certain drawbacks to being a natural warrior. I'm just too badass. Yeah, exactly, Erica Split. Be ungentlemanly to hit a woman. Right, he would never. A warrior. He's a warrior. Where were we? God damn it. Yeah, natural warrior. Take it, I yelled, resuming the 20-yard dash. 30, 40 to save Jill. Take it? I don't understand. What was he saying? Take it? Whatever. I measured distance in kilometers. It actually says, like, it's K-I-L-L italicized, and then a hyphen in o-meters. Kilometers. I didn't bother looking back as I heard the solid, satisfying sound of Arlene putting a round in the zombie's head. Okay, he was telling Arlene to shoot it. Arlene stays in good shape. I never slowed down, but suddenly she was running right beside me. We found a dead guard slumped against the wall. A recent kill. Blood still trickling down his arm onto his M1. Dumbass zombies didn't relieve him of his satisfaction. I grabbed the weapon without slowing down. Then Arlene and I slammed through a pair of unlocked doors, ready for anything. What is this? Oh, okay. John Stalvern? Look at all the Doom guys. I can't show that right now, but maybe I'll check it out in a second. The timer went from 1 hour an hour ago, and now it is at 2? Are there rules of engagement to this book reading? Yeah, sort of. So every time that we get 50 subs, or that, I shouldn't say we, that y'all donate 50 subs, it adds an hour to the stream, and I read a new chapter of the book. So that happened, so the timer went up, and now I'm reading another chapter. But as long as the stream's going, I'll be playing Metal Gear with the remaining time. Let's see here. Okay. I hope that makes sense. It's a little complicated. I grabbed the... Yeah, okay. Anything. They slammed through the doors, ready for anything. Anything consisted of a zombie ripping open a sawbones with the man's own surgical instruments. I don't know what's a sawbones? I fired off 6 rounds of 30-06 I fired off 6 rounds of 30-06 little round scalpels that opened up the zombie a lot more completely than he'd managed to do to the doctor. Okay. Nickname for a doctor. Okay. Slang for a doctor. I understand. Got it. Zombie's killing a doctor. He shot the zombie. I can save him, said Arlene, noticing the convenient medikit at the same time I did. In Kafiristan, she'd had plenty of experience treating abdominal wounds. Before I could say diddly, she was on her knees, scooping up the medical guy's intestines and shoveling them back into the patient. Fortunately, the guy had passed out, and just as fortunately, Arlene was really good at handling slippery things. Jill was my responsibility, if it wasn't already too late to save her. As if on cue, she screamed again. I gave a silent prayer of thanks to Sister Beatrice, the toughest nun I had back in school. She always said that the only prayers that are answered are the ones you say when you truly want to help someone. I humped. I hurried. I tried my damnedest to fly. Jill was still alive when I got to her. I almost tripped over the head of Dr. Ackerman, staring up at me with a really surprised expression. I did slip in the blood, and I dropped the M1 as I careened right into the back of the biggest freaking zombie I'd ever seen. The creep had cornered Jill and was trying to get at her with a blasted meat cleaver. She was holding him off with a metal chair like a lion tamer. She'd taken shelter in a tight corner, which gave her an advantage. He couldn't swing the cleaver in a full arc, and she was able to avoid him by sidestepping the blade. I slammed hard into the back of her lion, and he fell forward. Jill jumped out of the way and shouted, "Fly!" Raised on Rambo, thanks for gifting a sub. That was all, just my name, but she crammed so much gratitude into that one syllable, she made me feel like the cavalry, Superman, and Zorro all rolled into one. Run! I shouted now that she had a clear escape route. No way! The brat liked giving me lip. It was hard to be mad at her, though, because she was trying to retrieve the weapon from the floor. That big hulking zombie was slow, but he didn't seem interested in giving us all the time in the world. Jill leveled the M1 at our problem and pulled the trigger. Nada. Either Jill was doing something wrong or the gun had jammed. Zombie was still fixated on her, even though I was behind him again. Jill looked at me with a hurt little girl expression as if to say, I gave up a perfectly good metal chair for a gun that doesn't fire? The bad guy still had his cleaver, and he had plenty of elbow room now, so he could swing the thing and add Jill's head to his collection. It pissed me off that all my heroics had only made Jill's situation worse. I did what I could. The big Hulk was standing with his feet just far enough apart, but I was able to kick him in the groin. I wish I had my combat boots instead of sneakers. I wish that he were alive, as the dead ones are only mildly bothered by that kind of action. But it was the best I could manage. The big bearded mother turned his head. That was all Jill needed. She held the barrel in both hands and swung the weapon so fair and true that it was worthy of the World Series. The wooden stock cracked against the zombie's neck. He was thrown off balance. As he tried to turn his head, I heard a snap. Jill had done something bad to his old neck bone. Good girl. Ew. I knew that was going to come out eventually. Ew. The zombie fell to his knees. Before he could get out of his crouch, I karate chopped the back of his neck. Judo chop. It's a karate chop. It says specifically. No time to play George Foreman now. So far, Jill and I had merely slowed him down. Time for something more permanent. Like a Captain Kirk chop. Ta! Or it's just all forearm. I thought he said no karate. That was before. Now he is doing karate. Jill had the same idea. No sooner did I body slam the Hulk into a prone position than she yanked the cleaver away from him and started swinging it at his head. Hey, watch it, I shouted. You almost hit me. Sorry, she said, almost as a gasp, but she kept swinging that wicked blade at the peeling rotten flesh around the zombie's neck and head. I wasn't about to tell her she didn't have the strength to finish the job. The zombie wasn't getting up. I intended to make sure it stayed down. As I retrieved the M1, I realized that no other zombies were showing up to bother us. There was something eerie about Doc Ackerman's head on the floor staring at us. Marine isn't supposed to use a word like eerie, but it was freaking eerie, man. I picked up the M1, so it had jammed for Jill, so she just used it as a club. It's not like she'd smashed it against a tree. I cleared the bolt. What the hell? We could give it another try. Excuse me, I said to Jill, busily trying to return the favor to the great decapitator. The meat cleaver was a little dull, and Jill just didn't have the necessary body mass. She offered me her hatchet. I declined. I fired the M1 once, point blank. The head came apart like a ripe cantaloupe. The blood that poured out was a brand new color on me. The gun jammed, she insisted. I know. I didn't do anything wrong with it. I'm not saying you did. Knocking the gun around probably unjammed it. Well, I just want you to know it wasn't my fault, but I couldn't fire it. There were times when Jill went out of her way to remind me she was a teenager. I really wasn't in the mood for her defensiveness just then. God knew how many more zombies were roaming the installation. We had to get back to Arlene. I was worried about Albert. We'd become like a family. At some moment in my military career, I'd become used to the stench of death. I could probably thank the Scythe of Glory and their Shining Path buddies for that. That's the, terrorist group they were fighting in Kafiristan, I think? But I would never get used to the sour lemon zombie odor, and the strongest whiff of it I'd had in a very long time scorched my nostrils as the head of the dead zombie leaked up my... As the head of the dead zombie leaked at my feet. There we go. When I threw up, I knew the vacation was over. Dun dun dun. Oh boy! All right, we have another skip, but it's not a new chapter yet. We have a brand new perspective. How exciting! I am Ken. So now the cyber mummy needs a voice. Didn't expect that. We are now from the perspective of a cyber mummy. Cyber mummy, everybody. Okay. Oh, Raised on Rambo. Thanks for gifting a sub. I am Ken. I was once part of a family. They're all dead now. I once took long walks every day and rode a bicycle. I swam. I ate food off of plates and drank wine. I sang. I made love. Now, I am a cyber mummy, a Ken doll. They have taken off the bandages and removed some of the objects from my flesh, but I feel that the aliens have made me less than human. Dr. Ackerman thought the opposite, but I don't feel more than human. Dr. Williams, the director, says they will bring me back to normal, but I don't believe him. The director puts nothing above the importance of winning the war. I am more useful to him now where I am, remaining what I am. The medical team tries to keep its findings from me, but I can tap into all their computer systems. They say they can overcome my physical weakness quite easily. They can stop feeding me intravenously and slowly acclimate my system to regular food again. Simple brain surgery would restore full mobility, but there is a risk. Not to me, but to their project. The alien biotech in my head could be altered or lost in the course of getting me back to normal. So they take their time. Meanwhile, I am plugged into the computers and confined to my bed, except when they risk placing me in a motorized wheelchair. I do not complain about this. I do not tell Jill when she comes to visit me. She's my most frequent visitor. What? Oh, Medea got out of jail. That's good. Okay. Okay. Cool. That sounds fun. Okay. I can do bad all by myself is the next one. Where Medea gives a singer an attitude adjustment? A Mexican immigrant. Give a boozy singer an attitude adjustment. All right.
That's the whole description.
Snuff.
It's a
Yeah, Medea like the Tyler Perry lady. Steph's watching all the Medea films today. STP Gaming, thanks for gifting a sub. Medea did her stretch.
in Medeaology.
Yeah, Steph's gonna be a Medea laureate after this. This is a home of quality media consumption, clearly. All right, Cyber Mummy. Dan. No, what's his name? Ken. That's right, Ken Doll. He's a Ken Doll Cyber Mummy. Okay, I do not tell Jill when she comes to visit me. She's my most frequent visitor. I don't complain to Flynn or Arlene or Albert when they check up on me. These are the people who saved me. They care about me. I see no reason to make them worry. Keeping my own counsel is a trick I learned when I was very young. I don't tell anyone how much I want to be the man I was. My favorite uncle used to take his family to Hawaii for vacations. He'd tell us about it when he visited, and I wanted so much to come here. The irony is that here may be one of the last places on Earth where things are still as he remembered. And I can't go out and see them while there is still time. I access all that I can on Hawaii. The screen flickers and tells me that Hawaii is a group of islands stretching for over 300 miles in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I bring up information on how it was discovered by Europeans, and then I read how it became the 50th state in the United States. I remember my uncle saying the most popular fish here is difficult to spell. I find an entry for it, and I realize my uncle was an honest man. Kuapua. Oof. Nukuapua. Okay. If I drilled that, I could probably get it. Okay, so it's Unuku. Nukuapua. Nukuapua. Okay. Nukuapua. There we go. That's not so bad. You just gotta break it down into chunks. I read all about King Kamehameha and envy how he could get around the islands so much more easily than I. I grow tired of feeling sorry for myself. I don't mind being useful. I'm not certain that's the same thing as doing one's duty, but I don't really care. This could be the last stand of the human race. But I hate the lies. All the military is good at doing in a crisis is lying. I would never talk about this with the brave soldiers. They don't want to hear about it. There is no point in discussing it with cynical senior officers, especially those who have decided to use me without being honest about their intent. I like my new friends. They have honor. They look out on the world with a clean vision that no amount of dirt or blood can obstruct. They think they are fighting for individualism, for freedom. If the human race survives, they will face a serious disappointment. I have accessed the files. There are plans. Perhaps I am closer to the future than those who rescued me. I am trapped inside myself. Maybe something deep inside me died when I was in the clutches of the invaders. Before they altered me, I would have been horrified to discover human plans for a new eugenics to build the future. Oh, there it is. There's the libertarian shot heard around the world. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Sure. This is not a... What? Cool. Gladys Knight and Mary J. Blige. Cool. Oh yeah, Maya Angelou was in one of them.
I mean, I don't even know how we keep stepping it up.
Okay. Here's eugenics plan. This is not a plan of the human collaborators. The traders have their own genetic plans for improving that part of humanity the new masters will allow to survive. The new eugenics plan is devised by our side, the good guys, the ones fighting the invaders. Who knows? Maybe they will deliberately create more computer adjuncts like me. It's a dead certainty that they will begin making breeding decisions for the survivors on our side. Warriors like Flynn and Arlene will be spared this nonsense. They were born to die in battle. They are too valuable to use in non-military operations. I have accessed plans for them. They don't know it yet, but their time on Earth is limited. Very few people have their skill as space warriors. Flynn is Flash Gordon. Who is Arlene? Barbarella? Sure. Written by somebody who's never seen Barbarella, I'm gonna guess. No, actually, that's not too far, given how she titillates the audience. God, that movie rules. Marines Taggart and Sanders will follow orders even when it involves facing 100-to-1 odds and near certain death. I'd like to imagine some bureaucrat, human or otherwise, telling them with whom they should go to bed with and how many children they are expected to have. They will be spared this future Earth that I believe to be inevitable, no matter which side wins. Times of crisis are made in hell, and made for the kind of man who has a plan for everything. Jill and I are to remain on Earth. If Albert is fortunate, he will go with Fly and Arlene. He is too religious a man to stay. Where would he turn when he found out there's no side for him? Would he try to return to Utah? He doesn't know about Utah yet. He'll probably find out today. They have a lot to cover today. The service for Ackerman and his staff was held this morning. I watched it on the monitor. So much has happened since yesterday. First, the Admiral will pretend there's a possibility of sabotage, even though the video recordings show the killings were the result of simple carelessness on the part of one of Ackerman's staff. Plain incompetence led to the Holocaust. Jesus. Wrong word. Those tapes remain classified, naturally. The possibility of a traitor does more for gung-ho morale than an admission of incompetence. I can hardly fault our new leaders for being students of history. Besides, my friends will be receiving a big dose of declassified material relevant to their next mission. They shouldn't be greedy for too much declassified material all at once. It causes indigestion. Besides, the Marine Colonel will be giving them a nice dessert. I should have a better attitude about this. The other side is so terrible that we should forgive our own shortcomings. Isn't that what they said when they were fighting Hitler? Oh, fuck, guy, come on. The Doom Demons, as Jill likes to call them, are perfect enemies. In the name of fighting them, we can do anything we want. No, it isn't fair to say we want to do terrible things. We will win by any means necessary. As Malcolm X used to say. How many just utterly crass and tasteless comparisons can you make in such a short amount of time? Oh, dude. Jesus Christ, man. Malcolm X, are you fucking kidding me? A cyber mummy. Likening their eugenics, fucking self-comparisons to Malcolm X. A zombie breakout compared to the Holocaust. Oh, holy cow. Holy moly. Well, 47 short subs away, and we can read another chapter. Yeah, shit. This book is shit. You're describing shit. I am. But boy, is it really something. Okay. He didn't say that. The Cyber Mummy did. Yeah. Cyber Mummy, with his pure insight and utter knowledge of the future, has said that this is inevitable. And that humans are doing it. Yeah. Yep. Right. Back to hell. The hell of this dweeby freaking libertarian nerd writing teen girls and Mormon dudes and okay, chapter 9. By the time I joined Fly and Jill, I could breathe easy again. So I guess this is Arlene. Okay. It was Fly and Jill. He saved her. I knew the big lug would. There was no way I could have left a man bleeding to death when I had the training to save him. So wait, she stuffed all of his guts back in and stabilized him? Damn. How many chapters are there? 30. Of course, the Navy security forces were swarming everywhere by then. I don't mind the two of the first of Kimmel's finest were Mark Stanfill and Jim Ivey, my poker-playing buddies. Fly wasn't in our league. Caged Money, thanks for gifting a sub there. When everything's gone to hell in a handbasket, personal ID can make the crucial difference in whether somebody panics and pulls the trigger. Ackerman's facilities had been turned into a zombie cafeteria, and that was enough to make anyone panic. Wait, what are you talking about? ID? Poker buddies? Okay, I'll just roll with it. Fly, Jill, and I were hustled into a decontamination chamber. Wait, by who? After all the contact we'd had with these creatures, I almost laughed at precautions this late in the game. Then again, I shouldn't criticize Hawaii Base for being thorough. It would be a kick in the ass if we were defeated by the enemy, or if we defeated the enemy only to succumb to diseases already coursing through our bloodstreams. In the evening, I saw Albert at dinner. He was a worse poker player than Fly because he couldn't keep emotions from marching across his face. Wait a minute. Arlene, are you all right? This is Albert, by the way. We haven't heard him talk yet. We've only heard him think about women's wombs. Arlene, are you all right? He asked, noticing Jill's smile a second later. Are all of you okay? He added. We're fine, Fly assured him, grinning. We needed the practice, Jill added. Stop giving him a hard time, I told the other two. Don't mind these kill-crazy kids, Albert. Hey, Fly protested, still smiling. Seriously, Albert, after all we've done together, this was no big deal. I noticed that the other tables frequently occupied by now were only half full. The death toll hadn't been that high, considering the surprise element. All the zombies were accounted for and wasted. At least Ackerman kept good records. The only explanation for the sparse crowd was that a number of our comrades had been put off their food by a sloppy encounter with the drool ghouls. So we could have seconds if we wanted. Albert sighed and joined us. The tables were set up cafeteria style, and our little group tended to gravitate together. We were so taken with Ken that he'd probably belong to our little supper club if he ever ate solids again. I didn't hear anything about the zombies until I returned, he said almost apologetically. How was town? Asked Jill. I was shopping. Those innocuous words came out of Albert, frightened with an extra meaning. Or freighted with an extra meaning. I wasn't the only one who heard it. We ate our Salisbury steaks in silence. Plastic utensils clinking. Awkward Salisbury steak meal. Post-zombie breakout when everyone else is freaked out and they're just like, da-da-da-da-da. Ooh, extra chocolate milk. Sounds like my grade school lunch hour. And just quietly eating. Just right to the Salisbury steak. God, I love it. Okay. I finished and started to get up with the intention of depositing my tray in the proper receptacle. I figured my figure didn't really need the extra calories of seconds after all. Good. Good female. Very good. Deprive yourself of food for the pleasure of us. No, she's doing it for her. Arlene is making that choice. Albert was only starting to eat, but he abandoned his food. And Albert is a growing boy. Do you mind if I walk with you? He asked. The style was definitely not him. I couldn't help noticing Jill's eyes burning into him. She sensed something was up. Fly was busy paying close attention to his pineapple dessert. Crumbs flying everywhere. He loves the pineapple desserts. Oh, man. Sure, I said. For one moment, I let wishful thinking override the rational part of my brain. I wanted to believe that Albert had changed his mind about our sleeping together. I'd forgotten that where this big, wonderful guy was concerned, the most important aspect of sleeping together was the dreaming that went along with it. And the promises. I don't know what's... Jesus, wait. Yeah, okay. I don't know what surprised me more, that he'd come up with a ring during his shopping expedition, or that he'd put it to me with such direct simplicity. Arlene, will you marry me? I'd opened the door to this when I'd made a play for him. If I had half a brain, I'd have realized what my interest would mean to a man of this caliber. We stood together next to a perfect facsimile of a World War II era poster proclaiming, "Loose lips sink ships." He watched me closely, especially my mouth, waiting for words promising his own personal salvation or damnation. I'd have been happier if he looked away. Suddenly I wasn't as brave as I thought I was. Albert. I only got one word out. His expression spoke volumes. He'd certainly wrestled with all the problems haunting me. I wouldn't even insult him by bringing them up. The ring, he began. It's beautiful, but I couldn't dream of accepting it until... I need to think. It was like one of those comedies where the characters talk at cross purposes. Who would think a simple gold band could present a greater challenge than escaping from the Disney Tower? One of those lines that shouldn't make sense but does. I'd like you to keep it, he said. You don't have to think of it as an engagement ring or anything if you don't want it to be. I don't expect you to wear it if you're not sure. Arlene, you mean so much to me that when you offered what I couldn't accept, I had to respond in my own way. I had to let you know how I feel. Reaching out to take his hand was the easiest thing in the world until I felt the slight tremor in his palm. It took all my courage to gaze into his eyes and say, I can't tell you now. You must understand. Of course I do. Thank you, I said and kissed him on the cheek. His smile was a more beautiful sight than any golden ring could ever be. I'd like to have this, I continued. Is that right? He was too much of a gentleman to let me finish. I'd be honored if you keep it, Arlene. Whatever makes you decide. We need to get used to making our own rules in this brave new world. This was unexpected talk from my big fine Mormon. Wait, what? Okay. She's accepting the ring even though she's not saying yes. And he's like, no, you should. And that's, I guess, him being progressive? Is that she's getting a free ring? Too much of a gentleman to let me finish is peak man writing. He's too much of a woman lover to let me finish speaking. Wow. Yeah, that's a good point out right there. Wow, that's a real eye scratcher. Oh, head scratcher. Whatever. Scratch your eyes too. Alright, this unexpected talk from my big fine Mormon. This was unexpected talk from my big fine Mormon. Does your God approve of that kind of thinking? I asked him. He took my challenge in stride. If those of my faith are right, Arlene, he's everybody's God, isn't he? Then he returned my chaste kiss and left me to my own devices. What a dweeb, man. I don't know how you stay horny after hearing shit like that. Yeah, making our own rules while strictly adhering to biblical teachings. Or in the last chapter, he was straight up just like, I don't care if it's all wrong. I'm going to do it this way no matter what. So he's actually like the opposite of being flexible. He's decided that even in this world that seems to reinforce that his religious beliefs are not true, he's doubling down on his dumb shit and his old ways, not these new ways. I don't know what that line is. I think he's just trying to say the right thing. Requiem Bell, thank you very much for gifting 5 subs. That's awesome. Thank you very much. The next morning, at the briefing for everyone with a level 5 clearance or higher, I proudly wore the thin band of gold on the chain with my dog tags. Well, I noticed it right away. I bet he was as glad as I was to be back in uniform. Admiral Kimmel wore the face any CO puts on when the situation is grave. So did the highest-ranking officer in the Marine Corps, Wait, what? So did the highest-ranking officer the Marine Corps had in Hawaii, Colonel Dan Hooker. When these men were officiating together, the situation was plenty serious. God, that was a weird sentence. We are investigating the possibility of sabotage, said the Admiral. Wait, that's Admiral Kimmel. Yeah, that's that one.
Fortunately, quick thinking on the part of men and women who weren't asleep at the switch kept our losses low and neutralized the zombie threat. The Navy is grateful for the help we received from Marine personnel. The two officers shook hands. The way these men regarded each other, they put more into that handshake than plenty of salutes I've seen in my day. It was nice having officers who paid attention to details. The same could be said of the man Admiral Kimmel introduced next. Professor Warren Williams was in charge of all the scientific work being done in Hawaii. Okay. It was difficult to pinpoint his area of greatest expertise. He had degrees in physics, astronomy, biology, computer science, and folklore. His motto was taken from the science fiction writer Robert A. Heinlein. Specialization is for insects. Nerd. He had a sense of humor, too, which he now demonstrated. In his copious spare time, the Admiral explains military technology to me. I thought mission creep is what we had yesterday when those creeps got loose in Ackerman's lab. He earned only a few nervous chuckles for that quip. The memory of the dead was still too fresh. Yeah, he's fucking dunking on people who just died because zombies got out? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, people didn't laugh for some reason. Oh. Flannel Lord, thanks for the prime. Your streams make nursing a hangover a little bit easier. I am very glad to do that. And hopefully I can get your mind off things. This is very distracting, I'll say that. He changed the subject. In normal times, my position would be held only by somebody with a certain degree of military training. A year ago, I would have described myself as a militant civilian. This won him a few more chuckles. Not since World War II have so many ill-prepared eggheads been thrown into the military omelet. But when there's no choice, there's no choice. I may have taken my first step towards this job when I first learned about the top secret of the Martian moons. I was suspicious of the gates the moment I realized that anything might come through them. He looked a little like Robert Oppenheimer. Hey. Aged Money, thank you for gifting a sub to HP Rondell. And thank you for gifting 200 total subs. It's quite a bit. Appreciate that support. That's awesome. Much support along the way. So much time. Thank you. Alright, he looked a little like Robert Oppenheimer, apparently. I can imagine him working on the A-bomb. The Admiral and I agree on how you can tell when you are in perilous times. That's when people go out of their way to listen to the advice of engineers. Only one person laughed at that. Me. That was a good one. Just alone in the room. He covered other material about the operations of the base, but his eyes kept coming to me. I didn't think he was going to ask for a date. Fly and had proved ourselves too often, too well. I figured we were first choice for the director's punchline, and we'd better not have a glass jaw. He proved me right when the general briefing was over, and he asked me to see the Big Four, as we sometimes jokingly called ourselves. I'm sure... Wait. The briefing was over, he asked to see the Big Four, as we sometimes jokingly called ourselves. Okay. I'm sure there were adults at the base who resented a kid like Jill being entrusted with material that was off limits to them. But if so, they kept it to themselves. Jill's growing up fast. There's nothing wrong with that. I know it bugs Fly when men old enough to be her father start giving her the eye. She's tall for her age. She has one of those pouty mouths that drive men nuts. Remember, this is Arlene saying this, so it's okay. Right? I don't worry about who kisses that mouth so long as the brain directly over it is in charge. And between spilling demon guts all over the great American West, I took Jill aside and gave her the crash course in birds, bees, and babies. Of course, she doesn't have to worry about any sexually transmitted diseases. Medical science marches on. But who would have thought that no sooner does the human race eliminate AIDS than along come monsters from space? In the words of the late 20th century comic Gilda Radner, it's always something. Fine her anyway, Fly acts more and more like a worried father where Jill is concerned. This can be a good thing.
and gave him that extra bit of fire when he saved her in Ackerman's lab. But I don't know how to tell him to let go when I can't solve my own personal problems. Albert, as a prospective husband. Albert is a sensitive man, a shy man. I don't want to hurt him. I'd rather eat one of my own mini rockets than make him suffer. But I've spent my life being true to myself. Now I don't know if it's concern for Albert that makes me hesitate to accept his marriage proposal, or if I fear commitment to a man I love more than I do a room full of lost souls, the dumb name the Science Boys have given the Flying Skulls. If I survive our final missions and Earth is secure once more, will I be willing to give this man children? I don't even want to think about it. Yet I know that expectation is implicit in his proposal. To Albert, marriage without trying to have children only counts as serious as dating. Maybe I'm afraid of asking Fly to be godfather to my kids. As the director led us into his inner sanctum, I felt once again that the four of us had already formed a strange family unit of our own. And maybe we were the model of the smallest functional societal unit of the future. But I make sure the kid has a good aim. As I gazed at the gigantic radio-controlled telescope, the long tube reminded me of a cannon, a perfect symbol for combining the scientific and the military. William stood in front of it, feet braced, hands behind his back. He seemed more military at that moment than the Admiral and the Colonel, who stood to the side, as if deferring to the scientist. Before the director even opened his mouth, I had that sinking feeling that our personal problems were about to be put on the back burner again. And that's the end of Chapter 9. Not the worst we've had so far, but not what I would call good either. Let's see here. Surprised with all the sexual content given the religious context, Matthew 5:28 and 29. But I tell you that if anyone looks at a woman and wants to sin sexually with her, in his mind he has already done that sin with the woman. Your right eye causes you to sin, take it out and throw it away. It's better to lose one part of your body than to have your whole body thrown into hell. Yeah, that verse is used to justify a lot of really dumb stuff. Jeez. This is what y'all have contributed for, and I thank you for it. It means you respect art, you respect class. Corporal Taggart, the director addressed me. How did you like your time in space? I'm always honest when no life is at stake. I always wanted to go, sir. If you know my record, you're aware I didn't get up there in the way I intended. If ever a court-martial was a miscarriage of justice, yours would have been, volunteered Colonel Hooker, looking directly at me. Oh, I don't have a voice for Colonel Hooker yet.
If ever a court-martial was a miscarriage of justice, yours would have been,
volunteered Colonel Hooker, looking directly at me.
One good thing about wartime is that it makes it easy to cut through with the red tape. I enjoyed pencil whipping that problem for you, Marine.
Thank you, sir. The director returned us to the subject. I bring up the matter of fighting in space for a reason. We intend to take the battle back to the Freds. Freds? Freds, okay. We know that you and PFC Sanders, he nodded in Arlene's direction, have a unique capacity in this regard. I knew that vacation time was over. I also wondered who the hell the Freds were. Williams let us have it right between the ears. Over a year ago, before I joined the team, this installation received a coherent signal from space. No other radio telescope picked it up. At first, the men who received it thought it was a mechanical failure or someone playing a joke on them. It could have come from a small radio a couple clicks away, but it didn't. He took a moment to check the notes on his clipboard. We all listened in rapt attention. I was ready to learn something new about the enemy, anything to speed up their final defeat. They analyzed the signal, he continued, and established that it was a narrow-beam microwave transmission. There were variations and holes in the message. We did a sophisticated computer analysis using the Dornberg system, the best satellite and astronomy program ever developed. We were receiving a complex billiard shot message that had been successively bounced off 7 bodies in our solar system on its way to Earth. When we connected the various holes and occlusions, the result was an arrow leading straight out of the solar system, a line that could not have been faked. The message had to have originated outside the orbit of Pluto Charon. The director smiled. Sorry if that was a bit technical, but it reminds me of what Robert Anton Wilson said, that if we find planets beyond Pluto, they should be named Mickey and Goofy. Charon is so small that it's really only a moon of Pluto. Is that a joke? Just bad jokes? Yeah, I guess so. The Admiral cleared his throat and stepped into the act.
There was an unexpected snag in the handling of the data.
I don't know if I have these characters straight anymore. Which one's the Admiral? There's 3 of them. There's an Admiral, a Director, and Williams. Yeah, the Admiral is Sergeant Pepper. Well, we'll just roll with that for now.
There was an unexpected snag in the handling of the data. The previous director decided not to tell the government about the message. The members of his team were divided in their sympathies as well.
Williams picked up the thread. They were afraid the military-industrial complex would turn the whole thing into a big national security problem. Arlene was standing right next to me and whispered in my ear. I feel like the Admiral has a mustache? Yes, it is a mustache voice. I imagined a mustache. It's like talking from behind. And jowls? Yeah. That sounds almost as... Oh, God. That sounds almost as bad as the Hollywood industrial complex. Hush. I hushed her. Hush, I hushed her. Nice. The director continued. The scientists spent months decoding the signal, but they made slow progress. Then they ran into a little interruption. The invasion came. Duh, said Jill in my other ear, so I hushed her, too. Williams didn't hear their sarcastic remarks, and the brass seemed to have been struck with temporary deafness, which was fine with me. I'd hoped there would be Q&A. I wanted to ask about the Freds. Williams wasn't deaf, though. He reminded me of the nuns when they caught us whispering during a lesson. He frowned in our direction and became very serious. In the wake of the invasion, my predecessor committed suicide. He blamed himself for not having passed the information on to Washington. In his defense, we might remember how certain agencies of the government turned traitor and collaborated with the Freds. Imagine selling out your own species to things you'd never seen, about which you know less than nothing. That was it. The Freds were what they called the alien overlords behind our demonic playmates. I wonder how that name got started. We'll never forgive the traitors. Albert spoke from the depths of personal suffering I hope never to experience. The director didn't mind this interruption. He smiled and thanked Albert for his contribution. That was all the invitation Arlene needed to get into the act. Did we ever break the code? She asked.
That happened after Director Williams took over.
The Admiral volunteered. Death God, thank you for the prime. Many members of the original team are still here, the director quickly added. They weren't held responsible for my predecessor's decision. We no longer enjoy the luxury of wasting our best brains, Kimmel added. Which one is Kimmel? Kimmel's the director, right? Wait. Kimmel's the Admiral? The director... Which one is the director? They're using different terms for the same people, and there's 3 of them, and they've named 2 of them. Where are we in the novel? I heard there was 3. Yeah, last I heard was the 3-chapter intro filler arc. A couple of things happened since then. Albert proposed to Arlene. There was a minor zombie breakout on the Hawaii base. But Arlene and Fly dealt with it. That's kind of it. And now I guess they're getting briefed for their next mission. There was a lot of creepy stuff in the meantime, too. We broke the code, said the director, returning to essentials.
The message was not what we expected. The alien message was a warning.
Discount Vincent Price died? Yeah. Warning? Arlene echoed him. You mean a threat? An ultimatum? No, Williams continued softly.
The aliens who sent the message were attempting to warn us about the impending invasion. You understand, don't you? There are friendly aliens out there, enemies of the Freds, who warned us about these monsters who warned us about these monsters who have invaded Earth. There's more. I could tell he was enjoying this, but I couldn't criticize him for his scientific joy. Part of his pleasure came from the discovery of an attempt to help the human race in its hour of need. But if he didn't get to the point real soon, I was prepared to change my evaluation of his character sooner. He continued. These friendly aliens seem to be saying they're the ones who built the gates on Phobos, but we're not certain of that. We are certain that they are inviting us to use these gates to teleport to their base. We have the access codes. We even have the phone number. I mean, they've sent us the teleportation coordinates. So the next step is obvious. We think it would be a good idea if certain experienced Space Marines delivered a return message in person. So now it's Stargate. Literally Stargate. Did Stargate come out between these books, I wonder? He's just like, oh, I could just write that. I could just write that into my Doom novel series. Okay, there's a skip. There's a line break here. So we're shifting perspective, perhaps location. Book likes to do this and is very bad about establishing. At first, I was afraid they'd leave me behind. I'm a Marine, but I've never been off planet before. Of course, that shouldn't keep them from using me. No one else in the solar system has the experience of Fly and Arlene. So this could still be Fly or Arlene talking, by the way. They need 2 people more... Or wait. They need 2 more people on the mission. I might as well be one of them. Arlene and I... There we go. We're still Fly. Arlene and I have agreed not to mention my marriage... Nope. This is Albert. Not to mention my marriage proposal to the brass. Good lord. We don't intend to keep it a secret from Fly or Jill. We don't intend to keep it a secret from Fly or Jill, though. There'd really be no point to that. But first, I feel there was little point to my proposal in the first place. I'm honored that she is wearing my ring with her dog tags. I just hope it doesn't end up hanging from her toe, along with the tag that goes there when a Marine dies, and there's enough of a body left for identification. Weird. I never dreamed I'd go to space. Now they're talking about our leaving the solar system. I didn't know what to think. The brass, in their usual sensitive way, told me there's nothing to hold me on Earth except the law of gravity. Right after Director Williams... Okay, Williams is the director. Jeez, okay. I thought Kimmel was the... So Kimmel is the... I don't know. Right after Director Williams dropped his bombshell about the friendly aliens, and I'll believe them when I see them, the brass told Jill and me that they had something important and personal to discuss with us. Fly and Arlene were still reeling from the bombshell, and the Colonel wanted us to see them privately. So the director turned us over to a woman aptly named Griffin, who took us to a little room where she proceeded to give us a pop quiz. You understand seismographic readings? She asked. They show earthquakes, Jill piped up. You understand decimal points? She threw back at the woman in her most sarcastic voice. The woman named Griffin had a stone face worthy of a Gorgon. She turned on a computer screen and started bringing up charts and numbers. I won't bore you with the numbers, she said wearily. Seismographic labs in Nevada and New Mexico detected 5 jolts that could only have been the result of a nuclear bombardment. The probable ground zero, Salt Lake City. Jill and I looked at each other and saw our emotions reflected in each other's faces. Jill tried so hard not to cry that I couldn't stand it. I cried first, for both of us. I thought about all those old comrades, Jerry, Nate, even the president of the Council of 12. They couldn't all be gone. I remembered 2 sisters who seemed to have been touched by the hand of God. Brink and Linnea. Jesus. Brink and Linnea. I'd helped them with their study of the Book of Mormon. They couldn't be gone, could they? Anyone but Jerry. What's being read right now? The 3rd Doom novel, Doom Infernal Sky. And Salt Lake City just got nuked off the planet.
So, the Mormon sniper, whose perspective we're reading from right now, is lamenting the loss of Mormon Central. They nuked the Mormons, yes. The U.S. military, working with the demons, nuked the Mormons. Yes, that is apparently what has happened. Recall that this was foreshadowed by the cyber mummy, Ken, when we read his chapter. All right. I hadn't admitted to myself, but until now, an ultimate vindication of my faith was my certainty that Salt Lake City had been spared. That seemed to be incontrovertible evidence that the hand of God at work. Of the hand of God at work. We were, after all, the Church of the Latter-day Saints. The whole point was our belief that the time of God's direct intervention was not over. His hand must still touch the world. How else could we be preserved after such a holocaust? Stop using that word. God. The Book of Mormon was still only a book, like the Bible or the Quran or the Talmud. Surviving in a world of real demons provided a sense of the supernatural that could barely be approached by every word of the first and second books of Nephi, Jacob, Enos, Jarom, Omni, and the Words of Mormon, Book of Mosiah, Alma, Helamon, third and fourth Nephi, or is it Nephi? I don't know. Book of Mormon, Esther, and Moroni. The scientific explanations carried only so much weight with me. That we could witness today's events made every holy text in the history of the human race seem more relevant to modern man. More relevant? I don't understand how everything that happens, he's like, well, this does seem to prove that my religion's bullshit. But actually, if you think about it, it actually makes it more important. Like, he does that. He's done that twice now. He's like, golly, I guess all this Mormon stuff isn't real. But actually, it's more real than ever. And then that's just what he goes along with. Jesus Christ. If the tabernacle had just been nuked, however, I needed to seriously rethink the prophecies. Okay, so his faith is still shaken. Christ almighty. Arlene looked fit and trim and beautifully deadly as we went to Colonel Hooker's office. Okay, so Hooker is the colonel, and Colonel Hooker is the jowls. Okay. This was no time for ladies first. I outranked her. I enjoyed outranking a woman who was fit and trim and beautifully deadly. Who am I right now? Fly, I think. I think Fly's saying this. The door was already open, and the colonel was sitting behind his desk when I reached his threshold. Maybe it's still Albert? There was a line break, which means it could be anyone, anywhere, at any time. Oi. Fit and trim and beautifully deadly. It had been a long time since I pounded the pines. I stood in the doorway, raised my hand, and rapped on the door frame 3 times good and hard. Colonel Hooker looked up with a grim expression. God only knew how many of us were left in the world. The best thing about being a Marine is the pride, which gets back to the question of how a rabid individualist chooses to survive. When you're a Marine, you choose, and men you respect must choose you. And respect is a two-way street paved with honor. Pity the poor monsters who got in our way.
As you were,
declared Hooker. Thank you, sir. Arlene and I responded in unison. I'm assuming I'm Fly. That's all I can figure. We went into his office and he offered us each one of his big Afuente Gran Reserva cigars. They were big suckers. Too bad neither Arlene nor I smoked. He lit up and ordered us to become comfortable.
I want you to understand. I want to be certain you both understand the full implications,
he said.
This is a 4-man mission. The director has already pointed out your unique qualifications. We might as well be frank about it. This is not a mission from which anyone is expected to return.
I glanced over at Arlene without being too obvious about it. Her face was an impressive mask. Arlene has smoked a few pulls. She's a woman of the world. She looked the way only... Wait. She looks that way only when she's exerting superhuman control. Didn't take a telepath to read her thoughts. Albert. Is this a fanfic? Basically, yes, but it is a published work all the way from 1995. The Colonel must have had a telepathic streak himself. The next word out of his mouth was,
Albert.
Arlene's mask cracked to the extent that her eyes grew very wide.
Albert is my third choice for this mission.
It's getting a little Nixon-y. Hooker went on.
I've chosen him because of his record before the invasion and also because he's a veteran of fighting these damned monsters. Frankly, I don't think there are 3 other human beings alive who have experiences to match yours.
Probably not, sir. I agreed.
If I were superstitious,
He went on.
I'd say you lead charmed lives. We've come up with a mission to test that hypothesis. It'll take a bit of doing, but you will have a ship and a Navy crew to fly it.
You said the Marine operation is a 4-man mission, Arlene reminded our CO. I love the fact that she didn't say 4-person. She never worries about that kind of junk. Is she still topless? Yeah, I think the book forgot that she was explicitly topless. Because she fought all those zombies. I guess he did say that they were wearing beach towels. Chelsea, thank you for gifting 5 subs. She's cool, 'cause she doesn't worry about that kind of thing. Hear me out. After reading the novels, could you interview the author, scratch that self-publisher of this treasure trove of entertainment? Maybe. I don't feel like that kind of interview would be done. Like, I don't want it to be seen as a mocking sort of thing. Plus, it's like, it would either be stupid and lighthearted, or I would, like, seriously pressure the author about some of the creepier aspects of the novel. And nobody would agree to that. And I don't feel very good about yanking somebody out of the 90s to rake them over the coals about their problematic writing. Like, that doesn't contribute anything to anybody, I don't think. The books are fine. They are what they are. I'm comfortable letting them be that. Yeah, gotcha media. It'd probably do well, yeah. If I get some old writer on camera to ramble on about stuff, but I don't feel like that's maybe I could talk, I don't know. Could talk with them in good humor, maybe. Ask them, just be like, could be more of just like an empirical interview. Ask them for stories about the process of writing and publish it without commentary. Yeah, something, tether the author, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, exactly. Okay. 4-person, she never worries about that kind of junk. Okay.
You'll be joined by another Marine, a combat veteran.
Hooker told us. I was glad to hear that.
Only Marines go on this one, but we couldn't find anyone else with your particular background. Before you get acquainted with the new man, I have a present for you.
He reached into a desk drawer and took out 2 white envelopes with our name on them. My turn to be telepathic. The little voice in the back of my head hadn't worried about this kind of stuff for a long time. We'd been kind of busy staying alive and saving the universe. But as I opened up that envelope and saw the 3 chevrons of a sergeant, I felt a kind of quiet pride I'd almost forgotten. Those thin yellow stripes carried more meaning than I could have crammed into a dictionary. Arlene held her promotion out for me to see, trophies of war. A PFC no more. She had a stripe now. She was a Lance Corporal. Both the promotions carried the crossed swords design of the Space Marines. Man, I felt great. Period. End of chapter. Cool. Well, thank you all for unlocking that work of art. Now we know what this book is about. 80 pages in. I guess the back also said that it was about them trying to find friendly aliens. So, it's interesting too that they're like, the book is acknowledging they have plot armor, and now they're like testing it. Like, you guys seem invincible, so we're just gonna throw you into a portal. See what happens. Good stuff. Alright. And God have mercy on my soul for reading more of this book. Yeah, time for some real art. You might think that the codec conversations in Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance are good or entertaining, educational, charismatic. No. You haven't heard writing yet. You're about to. Is it Mormon demon slaying? Yes. Yes, it is. Okay, chapter 11. I didn't feel so great when I met the fourth member of our team. He was an officer. After all the big build-up about our unique status as Space Marines, they go and settle us with a freaking officer whose experience couldn't compare to ours, by their own admission, after mentally reviewing every joke I'd ever heard about military intelligence. I cooled off. Some wise old combat vet once said not all officers are puke heads. Funny. Can't remember the wise old vet's name. Captain Esteban Hidalgo did bring some assets to the mission. He was a good Marine with high honors. From the New Mexico War, that was on the good side. Plenty of combat experience, but mainly against humans. On the debit side, there was everything else. In 5 minutes, I had him down in my book as a real martinet butthead. Admittedly, 5 minutes does not pass muster as a scientific sampling, but Hidalgo didn't help matters by the way he started off.
One thing you both need to know about me up front,
He barked out.
I don't fraternize. I insist upon military discipline and grooming. I demand that uniforms be kept polished and in good repair.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was as if the past year had just evaporated. Never mind that the human race was facing the possibility of extinction. We had rules to follow. Throughout history, there have been examples of this crap. If an outnumbered army starts to have success, it is essential that the High Command assigns a by-the-book officer to remind the blooded combat veterans that victory is only a secondary goal. Respect for the command structure is what's sacred. James, thanks for gifting another sub. A gift from the Fisto. Here.
I've studied your combat records, he said. Exemplary, both of you. A word for you, Sergeant Taggart. On Phobos and Deimos, you almost made up for your insubordination in Kafiristan.
Why was Hooker doing this? I wanted to rip off Hidalgo's neat Errol Flynn mustache and shove it down his throat. But I took a page from Arlene's book and arranged my face into an impassive mask equal to anything in a museum. Hooker scrutinized me through this ordeal. So did Arlene. Finally, Hell in Hawaii ended, and we were dismissed. We had a lot to do before the final briefing. I had to go rustle up Albert and Jill. Turned out she would be a part of the first phase of our new mission if she wanted to be. She was a civilian and a kid, though, so no one was going to order her. And I was certain we would all want to say our goodbyes to Ken. Mulligan, too. I insisted that Arlene and I take the long way around to find our buds. May only be residual paranoia from my school days, but I felt better about discussing the teacher outdoors. They don't bug the palm trees at this side of James Bond movies. How do you feel about our promotions? Arlene asked. Every silver lining has a cloud, I replied. I could feel how tense you were in there with our new boss. You weren't exactly mellow about Albert. Mixed feelings, Fly. I'm weighing never seeing him again against his joining us on a suicide mission. If Hidalgo has anything to say about it. Let's talk, Fly. I know you as well as I know myself, and I think you're overreacting. Just because the man is a stickler for the rules doesn't make him another Lieutenant Weems. Remember, Weems broke the rules when he ordered his men to open fire on the monks. You had a point there. Arlene had been on my side from the start of the endlessly postponed court-martial of Corporal Flynn Taggart. My turn. There's nothing we can do if this officer is a butthead. I'd never liked officers, but I followed orders. It annoyed me a little that Arlene got along so well with officers. I'll tell you exactly what we're going to do, she said, and I could tell she'd given the problem considerable thought. You are too concerned over the details, Fly. I don't care if Hidalgo wants my uniform crisp so long as it's possible to accommodate such a request without endangering the mission. All I care about is that the captain knows what he's doing. Fair enough, but I'll need a lot of convincing. Arlene chuckled softly. You know, Fly, there are some people who would think we're bad Marines. Some people only approve of the regulation types. We saw how well those types did on Phobos. Exactly. Now we're going back, so stop holding out on me.
You were going to say something about Captain Hidalgo.
She frowned. Simple. While he's deciding if we measure up to his standards, we'll be deciding if he measures up to ours. This is the most serious war in the history of the human race. The survival of the species is at stake. My first oath of allegiance is to Homo sapiens. That comes before loyalty to the core. We can't afford to make any mistakes. We won't. I got her general drift, but I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
What if Hidalgo doesn't measure up to our standards?
Gonzo, thank you for the cheer. We'd been walking slowly around the perimeter of the building. She stopped and eyeballed me. First, we must reach the gates on Phobos. We weren't the greatest space pilots when we brought that shoebox from Deimos to Earth. You may be the finest jet pilot breathing, but we can learn a few extra things about being space cadets. We're just extra baggage until we're back on our own turf. That's when we'll really become acquainted with Captain Hidalgo.
God, who'd have thought there'd come a day when we'd think of that hell moon as our turf?
Hell moon. She gave me her patented raised eyebrow look. Fly, we're the only veterans of the Phobos-Deimos War. And the only experts. Track is so good. Cultist base. Okay.
What do we do about Hidalgo if he doesn't measure up?
Oh wait, hold on. We're the experts, okay. She was keeping something from me. I wasn't gonna let this conversation terminate until she fessed up.
Agreed. So what do we do about Hidalgo if he doesn't measure up?
Simple, she said. We'll space his ass right out the airlock. Nice. Wait, what? You don't have to go to Phobos, Jill. I appreciated Ken telling me that. Oh wait, okay. Ken talks now, and I'm Jill. I want to go. Arlene and Fly wouldn't know what to do without me. Besides, they couldn't have saved me without you. Wait, what? Wait, what? I am Jill now? Okay.
That's true, said Fly.
Ken was sitting up in bed. He wanted to see us off from his wheelchair, but he'd been working hard and had tired himself. His face was a healthy coffee color again. When he was first unwrapped, his skin had been pale and sticky. They unwrapped him in stages, so for a while he had stripes like a zebra and his color returned. Now he looked like himself again, except for the knobs and wire things they hadn't taken out of his head yet. I'm grateful to all of you, he said. Especially you, Jill, he added, taking my hand. But you're so young. You've been in so much danger already. Why not stay here where it's safe? Safe? Echoed Albert. I should say safer, said Ken. Arlene brought up a subject that Albert and I had avoided. Before we left Salt Lake City, there were people who thought it would be better for Jill to stay there. Ken coughed. He sounded really bad. I brought him a glass of water. I feel so helpless, he said. You only need Jill's computer assistance on the first leg of the mission. If only there were some way I could help by long distance.
You've put your finger on the problem, Fly told him. We can't anticipate everything we're going to need. Too bad Jill is the best troubleshooter for this job.
Just like before, I reminded everyone. You should take me to space with you, too. That's not part of the deal, said Arlene, sounding like a mother. We should be grateful for this time together. All these fucking voices. Albert pointed out. He was right. The only people with Ken were Fly, Arlene, Albert, and me. The mission would start tomorrow morning. If only they had launch capability in the islands here, Ken complained. God, they should have been better prepared. We're fortunate they have as much as they do, argued Arlene. There's everything here except the kitchen sink.
The kitchen sink is what we need, and it's at Point Mugu, said Fly. Thanks to Ken, we have a launch window.
I'd never thought I'd do windows, Ken rasped between fits of coughing. I always say
when you take off for a body in space, it's a good idea for your destination to be there when you arrive. It's also nice to have a crew to fly the ship. The primary plan to return Fly and Arlene to Phobos has all the elegance of a Rube Goldberg contraption.
I think that's Ken. Cough? I don't know. I'm inserting the coughs now because I think they're funny.
I don't even feel homesick,
Said Arlene. Everyone laughed. It's actually a line. Everyone laughed. Ken had paid us back big time for saving him from the spider mind. He was smarter than I was about lots of things. I also realized he cared about me, but I don't think he realized how much I wanted to go with the others. There's a fallback plan? Albert asked. Ken smiled.
The less said about that, the better, at least by me. Before you depart, I want to talk to Jill some more. I have some suggestions for her return trip.
I want to go to Phobos, I said. Every time I said that, Arlene repeated the same word. No. Fly sounded like a father when he said, "Believe me, if there were any other way, I'd never dream of taking Jill back into danger. Well, greater danger anyhow. We do need her for this."
We're all needed, Ken said in a sad voice. We'll all be needed for the rest of our lives, however short they may be.
He looked at me again.
But I agree with you about one thing.
What?
It's important to fight to the end. Sometimes I forget that.
After what you've been through, Arlene began, but he wouldn't let her finish. Like a gentleman.
No excuses, he said. I've been too ready to give up, but then I think about the terrible things these monsters have done to us, and it makes me angry. We will fight. So long as there are Jills, the human race has a chance.
Okay. I saw a tear in his eye. I was going to say something, but I suddenly couldn't remember what. Instead, I went over to Ken and hugged him. He held me and kissed me on the forehead. You know, as long as we're all together again, there's a question I've been meaning to ask. Fly threw out. Shoot, said Albert.
Bad choice of words around Marines,
said Ken. Civilians, said Arlene. She made it sound like a bad word. Fly asked his question. I keep meaning to ask one of the old hands here. Why are the masterminds behind the monsters called Freds? I know, I piped up. I heard that Sergeant Gunn guy talking about it. Master Gun, hun, Arlene corrected. When she didn't sound like a mom, she sure came off like a teacher. I finished up. Anyway, that man said a Marine named Oh wait, no, this is not Fly. I finished up. Anyway, that man said a Marine named Armagita started calling them Freds after I took a date to a horror movie. Okay. That man said a Marine named Armagita started calling them Freds after he took a date to a horror movie. That's the sentence. Sorry I read that weird the first time. Armagita named them Freds after taking a date to a movie. I wonder what movie it was, wondered Arlene.
Well, maybe we should start calling our heroic young people Jills?
Ken brought the subject back to me.
I can't change anyone's mind, so let me say, I hope your mission goes well.
As I said, I appreciated Ken worrying about me. He just didn't understand how important it was to me that I go along. Well, I promised I'd get to ride a surfboard. Okay, that's the end of the chapter. That's the end of chapter 11. The gang is gearing up to leave. The cyber mummy is unwrapped. And Fly and Arlene are going to fly back to Mars so they can go back through the portals to visit the friendly aliens to help them fight the demons.